Give me pop in. There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We know the details. We know the price. We know what's coming. We know when they're coming. And it's time to talk about it right here, guys. Welcome to Console Wars Episode 7, the launch details episode of all this stuff. We finally got what we wanted after months of begging and banging down the doors. Just like, imagine that gif of the one guy at the gates, just like, let me in. That's basically, it's done now. We're ready to rock and roll. I am one of your hosts, Cameron. Of course, my partner in crime, Seth. You were here with me as well. Seth, how excited are you that we finally have the information we wanted for so long?
It's time. Listen, you said it's episode 7. That means that according to the structure of the theme of this show, we are currently at The Next Gen Awakens. So right. That's where we are right now. All the cards are on the table, I feel, for the majority. There may be some last minute surprises, but I think all the strategy is laid out before us. So now, episode 7, this is the Apex episode, not Apex the game. Apex the concept. This is going to be a huge episode. I cannot wait. Back from a week and a half vacation, I went to the beach, proposed to my girlfriend.
Yay.
I'm engaged now. It's
Congrats.
a great day. It's been, in the garbage dumpster fire of 2020. I am riding the lightning, dude. Listen, I'm the dude from Mad Max who's just like completely embraced the madness. And
witness me.
Exactly, witness me playing guitars. It's insane right now, but I'm eating it up. And yeah, yesterday I was on PS5 watch all day. It is insane right now, so I cannot wait to jump in and talk with you about it tonight.
Yeah, I am too. This is really the first time I've really gotten to sit down as well and kind of talk about. I talked about the Series X stuff in the last episode of the Rocket Punch show, but like the PlayStation stuff, and basically we have everything laid out before us, guys. We know what the dates are. We know how much these things are going to cost. We know when they're coming out. All the details, or at least the majority of the details that we want to know in order to make it our best informed decision. We're ready to rock and roll. So let's not waste any time, guys. Let's get right into the show. Of course, guys, if this is your first time listening, welcome to Console Wars, your monthly podcast covering news and analysis on the never-ending struggle between Xbox and PlayStation. You can listen to this podcast every month on your podcast service of choice. Just go find the Rocket Punch Show feed, and it will show up right in there each and every month for you. You can also catch the video. We'll make that available as well. The video version will be on YouTube. Check it out over at youtube.com/rocketpunchgo. If you want to get early access to the show, get it before all the normal people do, make sure you head over to patreon.com/rocketpunch and find out how you can help support the show and get this episode early, just like those people over there. Speaking of those people, let's give them a shout out here. Special thank you to our Rocket Punch producers here that are supporting the show. Jossie M, Sam S, Jeremy M, Stephen S, Adam C, and of course everybody supporting and subscribing to us here on twitch.tv/rocketpunchlive. We were doing the show live here, so for everybody who is watching in Twitch chat as well, as we're having these discussions, please give us your thoughts. We're going to be reading select comments throughout the discussion, and if you guys have any questions that you want us to answer for you here, or you want to hear our opinions on, please throw them in chat. We'll be happy to answer them there throughout the show. So, Seth, how I want to start the show off here is, you normally have our state of play and we detail everything. That basically that's not the time for this. We don't have time for that.
The time for detailing is over. If you don't know the details, what are you doing here?
Well, we're going to help them out with that. So
we'll help you a little bit, yeah.
We're going to start off right out of the gate here, and guys, and give you the facts. We're going to give you the main details that I know everybody wants to know and hear about these two different sections here. I'm going to go over the PlayStation stuff. Seth, if you wouldn't mind, you'll go over the Xbox stuff. And then basically, we're just going to go into full-on discussion for the rest of the show. We're going to talk about what we think about these. We're going to talk about the different strategies we're seeing, and then answer your guys' questions and just each other's questions that we have that we might want to pick from each other's brain there. So let's jump right into it, guys. PlayStation, first and foremost here. It's the freshest one, technically, as of this recording here. So we had the PlayStation Showcase. We're not going to go into what was shown at the PlayStation Showcase. You guys can catch that over on the Rocket Punch Show if you want to hear our review on the showcase overall. But the things we need to know. PlayStation 5, $499 US dollars. PlayStation 5 Digital is $399 US dollars. The literal only difference between the two consoles is that one has a nice little hump that has a Blu-ray drive, 4K UHD Blu-ray drive. The other one, it's all digital, no disc drive. Both consoles will be launching in select areas. Let me make sure I'm getting my facts right here. They will be launching in U.S., Japan, Canada, Mexico, Australia, New Zealand, and South Korea on November 12th. And then they will be launching in the rest of the world on November 19th. Pre-orders start now. If you can, as of this recording, if you can find one, don't worry, we're going to talk about that whole thing in the show here. But we got a full rundown, I'm sure, as we go through here. I'll definitely bring up some of the launch lineup of games that are slated to come with the console and some of the details we've gotten, especially after the showcase now. We got a lot more information available to us. But that's it. If you're a PlayStation fan, the time is here. $4.99. Well, we'll get to our thoughts here. Seth, run us through Xbox. What do they got for us?
So we've known for a while the Series X was coming, announced last year at Game Awards. So we knew that was in the lineup, but we did not know the price. Then early last week, we started to see a ton of. I'm going to run very quickly through the series of events. There was a leaked video that then led to a fantastic meme-worthy Xbox nervous look image that gave me a good kick. And then shortly after that, they confirmed the presence of a second console, the Series S, which is basically a next generation console targeted at 1080p. We'll go through the details here as we dive in, but they also, coinciding with that, announced that the Xbox Series X, which is the more powerful machine that targets 4K, is going to be launching at $499 USD. The Xbox Series S, which is the lower powered but still, next generation power console, is launching at $299. So there's a little bit more of a spread there. They are set to launch November the 10th. Pre-orders are going live at September 22nd at 8 a.m. Pacific time, and this is something they announced when they gave that launch date. They said launching November 10th. Pre-orders are live September 22nd. So we're definitely going to be talking about pre-order experience, I guess you'll say.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of breaking down, there's a lot of tech specs that go into this kind of stuff, and Xbox, it's really hard to dig into this, the teraflops and things like that, which is interesting because they were throwing the teraflops around a lot earlier, but now the focus is much more on the Series X and the Series S are both next-gen hardware. They both have ultra-fast SSDs in them, and they are both designed to be the next generation of Xbox. The biggest difference in these devices is that the Series X has 1 terabyte of storage. The Series S has 512 gigabytes of storage. So a little less on the Series S, but the biggest difference is that the Series S is really targeting 1440p or 1080p, whichever device most TVs are going to be more 1080, whereas computer monitors might be 1440. It's targeting that specific resolution at 60 frames per second. I think they say up to 120 frames per second.
They do.
But that's going to be more of a, if you have the refresh rate for that. Whereas the Series X is targeted at 60 frames per second, 4K with up to 120 frames per second. That's the powerhouse. And I think you showed just a moment ago the page for that.
Yes.
So I think that page showed what the Series S looks like. And I think what really blew people away about the Series S versus the X is the size of the S being way smaller. So you talked about the PlayStation 5 physically being very similar, just whether or not it has the disc hump, right?
Yep.
Whereas this is a very different look. The white versus black, I think they said that the Series S is about 40% as large as the Series X, so it's less than half the size, right? It is, and my number may be off on that. It might actually be
60% smaller than the X.
60% smaller. Okay, so the So very small in consideration. Same next gen controller, all the next gen goodies that you want, and it is digital only as well. So no disk drive present in the Series S. So all of this happened, all of this went down, and now we kind of get to compare and contrast and see what are we feeling like. We've got the prices, we've got the hardware, we know where these consoles are strong. What are you thinking, Cameron? Tell me your thoughts.
And I'll speak on PlayStation because I didn't show off the PlayStation blog information over here. But first, starting off on the PlayStation side, honestly, for both of them, I think $499, perfect. I was slightly nervous that Sony might try, but I think try and maybe if they want to flirt with danger here, price it at $599 for the one with the disc drive, but. The ghosts of PS3 past said, "Woo! You better not do that. You better get 2 jobs." And they learned their lesson on that, and I really appreciate that. But I think $499. It's funny that to my memory, I cannot remember the last time, aside from the PS3, that a console was given a price at $499 and people were like, "Yeah, excited." I think with the tech that's going into both of these consoles, I think this $499 price is very much justified. I think a lot of people are very happy that it wasn't higher than $499 for either Xbox or PlayStation. And I'm sure we're going to get into a deeper conversation on this. Basically, this might be the first time ever where these two consoles are going head to head with no price discrepancies that I can remember. Now, people in chat, people listening in, Seth, you guys might be able to correct me. Jumpman in chat says these things are so cheap. Like, sure, but at the top end, they're going head to head on price, which I think is great. And I think the main reason I think that is because it really gives the chance to show off, for each of these companies, to show off the ecosystems with these different consoles. Xbox, of course, with the Xbox Game Pass, the All Access, all the feature sets they've got over there with their services, and then PlayStation 5 with, we'll talk about as well, the PlayStation Plus collection if you're brand new to PlayStation, or the exclusive lineup that they have sitting over there. I think that there's a lot of different stuff that each company is offering with these consoles, and at $499, basically price becomes irrelevant. You're going to pay the same either way. You definitely got to find out what ecosystem works best for you, and what services are working best for you. What do you want out of your next-gen console? And guess what? You can make that informed decision. The tricky part comes down when we get into below the $499, when we're looking at the digital edition PS5 or the Xbox Series S, where they've got some hardware discrepancies in there with a lower price tag. And really, if $500 is too much for you, number one, it's great that they are very affordable options for you to get into next gen. You just have to decide, well, number one, you have to decide and make sure that you're okay with digital only purchases for the next 7+ years. But number two, that's when you start getting into the really hardware specs, or not only just the different ecosystems, but also the hardware specs. Like, do I have a 4K television? Do I care about Sony's exclusives? And then you start having to weigh those options there. And like I said, if you guys, I will tell you right now, if you think this is going to be like an hour-long quick conversation, you're a fool, and you've never listened to us before. This is going to be a while, so we're definitely going to break all this stuff down. But before we definitely dig deep, I want to hear your thoughts, Seth. What do you think about all this?
So I will say I was really shocked by Sony's approach. I predicted these prices, but I really didn't think that they would do that. I wanted them to do the $499 for the disc and $399 for the digital. I kind of in the back of my head was expecting a $550 and $499, right? Like I expected that digital one to target that $500 range.
I want to throw in a sidebar real quick, because this was, somebody brought this up. An analyst online brought a very interesting case, and that probably the reason why the Xbox Series S and the PS5 digital version are so cheap is because they're digital. People, when you have a digital system, when you buy those games, I'm sorry, something in my throat. Not only are are the each company making more money off those games, but also they can't trade those back in. So they can drop it down a little bit lower and still retain some costs on it. But I digress. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So when I saw the price of the PlayStation 5, I was really impressed with their aggressiveness on this. I think that when people are talking about it in chat right now, when you look at these devices, this quote unquote console war, this game of chicken that we've been playing, you gonna be okay, dude?
Yeah, I'm fine. Continue on.
That's all right. So like this game of chicken that we've been playing all year long has come to fruition in a great way for gamers. Like we are the ones who win here, because I was almost certain that the Series X and the PlayStation 5 were going to be $599. I kind of felt it in my bones. And so the fact that we're not, people have been dropping, numbers in chat talking about the Atari, 5200 way back in the day costing $300, which if you were to look at that today, that'd be, hundreds and hundreds of dollars more than that.
We'll give him a shout out. Jumpman in chat says, for reference, I remember an Atari 5200 costing around $300 in 1983. $300 in 1983 is like $800 today, and I remember games costing $30+. So
it's really impressive that we're hitting these prices, and we're also talking about introducing hardware that has pretty much been at a premium up until now. High-speed SSDs, very powerful graphics chips. So the paradigm's kind of shifted. The console manufacturers are now, and Sony I never thought would do this because they are a consumer hardware company, right? And I guess I should go ahead and say, like, full disclosure, I am a shareholder for both Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, so so take everything I say with a grain of salt, because my mentality was whoever wins, I want to win, and so the best way to do is to play on all three teams. Right?
That's you get it. You understand.
Stonks. Exactly. So I think that it's weirdly enough, from a shareholder perspective, it's a little weird that like Sony's decided to sell this thing at a loss, right? Because we've known that it's been around $450 to $500 to make this thing, and they're hitting that price exactly, right? And in the case of the digital, they're going under that. So these companies are now eating the cost of these consoles up front, because in Sony's case, they've got to maintain this lead. In Xbox's case, they got to stay in the game, right? So both of them are very hungry, and that's what you want. You want two companies that are really hungry for victory, because you're going to get these types of awesome deals. So breaking down price, I think one of the big questions here, Cameron, and I want to touch base with you on this, because the Series S is a phenomenal value proposition. You look at, a lot of people are talking about this year being really rough from a financial standpoint, and I think that a lot of people are being hit really hard, but I also think there are a lot of people who have the flexible income to buy these things and are ready to throw down money.
Very
but
true.
I digress. Yeah. I acknowledge that a lot of people are having really bad years, and I really appreciated personally the way that Microsoft led that conversation, as these consoles cost this much, but what we want to do is we want to provide value by allowing you to purchase these on they call it the Xbox All Access program. And essentially what it allows you to do is to bundle, take the cost of the console, break it out over to 24 individual payments, add $15 a month on for the cost of Game Pass Ultimate, and they are allowing you to basically finance this console over the course of 2 years, 24 months, and have Game Pass Ultimate on it day one. This is where I think Xbox is really innovating in the area around, and I'm going to be using this word a ton tonight. And as a designer, it's a word I use every day. It is a word that you hear thrown around, but I want really for us to understand how important this word is, and that word is accessibility. Now, when I say accessibility, a lot of people think about things like the adaptive controller. They think about handicaps or things that that impair people's lives. And while that is a big part of accessibility, the main core factor of accessibility is meaning that the most number of people can get to it as possible, right? It is about accessibility to in this case, access. The video game console. It is the access to it.
Yeah.
And most Americans can afford the the cost of these devices. You look at some folks that are really hard off, they still afford a phone because they are able to pay that phone over the course of multiple, months and years.
Look, you got your stimulus check this year. You don't need to pay bills for that. Just go ahead and give it to Sony or Microsoft.
Bills,
get your consoles
bills.
paid for. Bam, there
Get
you
your
go.
consoles. Yeah, and there's another, there's a lot of and this is not an economics discussion, but the point here being that, hey Stig, welcome, buddy. So the point here being that Xbox is providing a way for somebody to day one, how much money do you have to pull out of your wallet and put on the table to get a next-gen console and hundreds of games across, I'll use the marketing pick here, hundreds of games across 4 generations, right? It is $25.
Chill. Sorry.
Okay, but it's $25 for you to get an Xbox Series S with Game Pass Ultimate. It is $25 on your very first day. That is how much money you put on the table. Now, yes, you're going to pay it off over time.
Yep.
But that barrier of entry is now so low that anybody really could be able to do that. Or I don't want to say anybody, that's a bit of a blame, but a lot of people would be able to access gaming at that point. I still think that Game Pass is one of the best values in gaming, so it's driving that even further. And then on top of that, if you really are the type of person who wants the best power you can get, but you can't quite drop $500, you can get the Series X with the same deal, pay it off over 24 months with Game Pass Ultimate included, for, I believe it's $35 a month. So it's $10 more a month to get the power of X. So from an accessibility standpoint, I think that was a breakthrough. Xbox All Access is something that I think is that's the real winner on the Xbox front. And it goes back into that whole philosophy that Xbox is building a platform that is the most accessible gaming platform, and they want it to be the best place to play games no matter what device you own, right? So here is where we're going to once again talk about the philosophical difference between where Xbox is going and where PlayStation is going, right?
Okay.
PlayStation, on the other hand, is approaching this from a what I would say, a traditional standpoint. They're playing the same game they've always played. Here is the box. Here is how much the box costs. Here are the things that you can enjoy only on our box, right? That is what they are driving home. So when I look at the prices of these two devices, I think that from an accessibility standpoint, Xbox has made themselves much more accessible from day one. Now, I'm going to play my own devil's advocate here, Cameron, and then I'm going to bounce it back over to you.
Okay.
Because when you look at the raw value, like the money you're putting down to buy the hardware, $299 gets you the next-gen Xbox that is targeting 1440p or 1080p. It is targeting a lower resolution than you would maybe have on your television at home, right? It's now it does have 4K upscaling, but again, that's not true 4K. Then you look at the PlayStation 5 Digital, which is from a cost-benefit analysis standpoint, they're both all digital consoles, so you're not dealing in the disc world anymore. You're dealing strictly with the games that you can buy. You can get that PS5, which is the full power of next generation, full 4K gaming, 60 frames per second on everything, for just $100 more than the Series X. That is when I start to really think about, man, the Series S is great, but I think that it is really going to become... The Series S is going to be one of those things that gets more powerful over time, because inevitably the price is going to drop to $250, then to $200, and by the back half of this generation, the Series S will probably be in that $149 to maybe even $99 on Black Friday range, and that is going to be a huge value drive, right? But for now, you could spend $100 more and get the full PlayStation 5 experience. I think that's a little risky, because the PlayStation 5's got a lot going for it that we're going to talk about later, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I want to ask you, Cameron, what are your thoughts on the Series S, the approach that they took from the hardware, especially on the pricing standpoint? And do you think that the lower cost of that PlayStation 5 digital is going to eat into the hype that Microsoft's trying to build around the Series S?
And it's a very good question. That's one of the first few questions. Two things before I answer that question. Number one, of course, guys, if you're in here in Twitch with us as we're recording the show, please, if you guys have any questions that you want us to answer and talk about, throw them in chat. We'll definitely give our answers throughout the show here. And number two, I've also put up a poll that's active right now. You guys can vote and see, so we can know like what next-gen console you guys are planning to get, if you're intending to get one at all. Definitely jump in there and vote in the poll there. But, Seth, to answer your question, the Xbox Series S at $299, and now that I've had a good week or so, I talked about it this past week, and now I've been able to like sit on it a little bit more. I've really got to say that the Xbox Series S is a fantastic option for people. Some people, I think that we have been pushing to define next gen. One of the big keys for next gen is 4K, and that was really because of the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, kind of the mid-fresh updates to the consoles from this current generation. And now we're walking into a region where, yes, everybody's like, oh, $499 is totally affordable. I can definitely do that. But there's some people that, number one, can't afford $499. They just can't. Especially when you think about the year that we've had so far with COVID and a lot of the struggles that some people have had. But number two, and I'm definitely going to bring this point, this sort of point will come up a lot tonight, I'm sure, is that there are still a good chunk of people out there that do not have 4K televisions. Now, I will definitely say, on the flip side of that, 4K is, in my opinion, more affordable than ever. I think you can go to Best Buy and get a 4K TV at a decent size for probably under $500. It may not be the best quality, but you will get the 4K high-res screen that you're wanting to look for. You see that pop, you're like, ooh, all the pixels. But I think the Xbox Series X can serve, I think it's going to serve two different people. Maybe three different people. Number one, I think it's going to be great for the people that don't have 4K and may not be planning to get it anytime soon, and decide, hey, what, I could definitely look at this option and pick this up, and I get the next gen games, I get the next gen access for only $299. Sure, it doesn't go to 4K, it goes to 2K at 1440p, but hey, I can live with that. Number two, I think Xbox Series S, even more so than the digital version of PlayStation 5, is a great secondary console. Some people, sometimes we get, I know the show is called Console Wars, guys, but come on, it's tongue-in-cheek. You gotta get with us here. But there are a lot of people that are multi-platform gamers. And I talked about this as well, and I'm glad you brought up the All Access benefit, because I brought this up when I was on the Rocket Punch show this past week with Jamar over at Media Junkie, that a thought process could pop up where you can go to Best Buy or Target and you could pay for the PlayStation 4, $500, however much you're paying for that, or PS5, I'm sorry, and sign up for the All Access plan and pick up an Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S at no cost up front and for $25 a month. I mean, a lot of us are really in tuned and ingrained, and we know how subscription services work. And so we're used to those now. And so I think that is an absolute great value to really fuck Console Wars and get them both. Or even just even in the immediate or down the road saying, hey, I want to pick up a secondary console. The third one, funny enough, could be this is going to be the great console if you're a child and you send your mom to get, say, I want a next gen system, and they're looking for the cheapest thing, Xbox Series S. Boom, there it is. The trick with the Series S and the PlayStation 5 digital version, which I know it's 2020, you would think we wouldn't have to say this, but we're still in a time where there, a large swath, at least of the United States, there are some people that do not have strong, reliable internet. And when I mean that, I'm talking about like 25 megabits per second or higher. And you know, there are still people on DSL. Yeah. And for them, even though both of these consoles are priced at a nice low prices, affordable prices, it may be out of reach simply because they can't do digital. And they don't have the speeds they need to download these games digitally, in which case I appreciate both companies. We still have a disc option. We haven't hit the point where it's all digital yet. Yeah. They want to get people to it, but we still have disc versions. It's going to cost a little bit more, but I think that if people are going if they're going to get a next gen system, they're already invested either way. And they've already been saving their pennies. We've had plenty of time. You knew these things were going to be expensive. I think more than anything, most people were probably like, "Oh, it's not $600. I just save $100. I can buy a game with it." Woohoo!
Yeah.
But I think that as you talked about, Seth, like accessibility with this Xbox Series X is really, really great. I'm really excited to see that, and I'm also really excited to see the PlayStation 5 digital priced at a $399 price point. Now, my thoughts on will the PS5 digital eat into some of the Xbox Series S kind of share at that price? Possibly. And the only reason I do that is because for value-conscious consumers that may be looking at a 4K TV in the near future, and if they're trying to save money, $299 sounds very, very appealing, but for $100, like you said, for $100 more, you could have the full 4K experience with the PlayStation 5. And that, you know, for an additional $400 to more or less future-proof yourself, that may be a way that people may want to go in doing that.
Yeah.
But I also think that your ecosystem as well, if you're in the Xbox or the PlayStation ecosystem, is definitely going to play a strong role in that. Because in that same scenario, people who just say, well, you know what, let me just save the extra $200 because I'm so invested in Xbox and get a Series X. Or... yeah. You know, that turn could come out, but again, the all access price almost negates that because you know, if I'm a salesperson, inside joke, Seth, and I'm at a retail place, if somebody's like, man, I don't have a 4K TV right now, but I might get one in a year or two, should I just go with the Series S? I could say, guess what? You can get the Series X right now with all access for $35 a month, no upfront cost. You'll have everything you need to get ready to rock and roll.
I'm gonna hit. All right, it's time. We've had our fun. Oh,
sorry.
It's time for the hot. As Cameron chokes to death over there.
I'm getting close.
I'm gonna go ahead and. There are a lot of paradigms that I hear a lot. One of them that I hear all the time in video games is when Grandma goes to the store and salesperson does this, or when Jimmy opens his PlayStation Digital Edition. There's these paradigms. I don't think that is what exists anymore. If it does, it's a small minority of, wow, look at that.
Yeah, the poll just ended. It is basically a three-way tie. Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, and PlayStation 5 Digital look to be the ones that people are getting. Surprisingly, especially based on the conversation we just had, nobody picked a Series S. Yeah,
and what I think that it's much more likely that people are researching this. Rutu and Chats brought up a thing that I think is so important to understand when this term, like, oh, it's been a rough year, people are really strapped for cash. Not really, because people aren't wasting money at bars. They're not going on trips. They're not buying new things. Like, they're not spending money on experiences because there's nothing to experience, right? What they have done is they've caused the last 2 quarters to be the biggest quarters for gaming ever, period. More gaming money has been generated in the past 2 quarters than any other quarter or year before. That includes the Nintendo Wii. That includes the Game Boy. That includes any other video game console ever released that you think is big has been completely overshadowed by this change in habits. So when I look at these prices, people say this all the time. People spend money on what they want, right? Like there are people who spend money responsibly and irresponsibly. I would say if you're buying a PlayStation 5 instead of feeding your family, that is an irresponsible purchase. But if you are typically going to Disney World every 2 years that costs $5,000, but you can't do that now because COVID or whatever, other blockers, maybe you lost your job or whatever, you still have the, maybe the flexible income that you would have spent on that type of trip, but now you're reinvesting it into something else. So I don't think that people are really prescribed to this, like, well, I'm going to go to the store in November and pick this up. No, you're not. Like, if you go into a store, it's going to be a risk for you, right? And it's, again, there's going to be folks that maybe ignore that. But I think this is more so with PlayStation than Xbox. I think that more and more of the console business is going to function exactly how the smartphone business works. And you may go to the store and like buy your thing, but like I still think the best place to buy a PlayStation is going to be from Sony. And I really hope that everyone who signed up for that list gets to buy one through Sony, right? I hope that all the shenanigans with the pre-order stuff is, people losing their mind, is just people jumping the gun. I really hope tomorrow we wake up and 80% of the people that want to buy one are able to buy one because they get that magic, the golden ticket email, right? That's still, I think that is how Sony should be selling this. Now, we're not going to talk a whole lot about Sony's event, but I do think Sony kind of failed when they talked about communicating intention and how this pre-order process is going to work. And you're seeing it now with people, right? They're panicking. They're thinking they're not going to be able to get one. You've got scalpers already taking advantage of people. And is there another poll? Oh my goodness.
Yes, there is another poll. I didn't want to interrupt you. I threw another poll up there, probably a little bit harder to answer there. For people who are in Twitch, you can answer what matters to you most for next-gen gaming. What component? Definitely vote in there and let us know what you think. I'm curious, because this could definitely drive another conversation here. But go ahead, Seth, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. So when I look at what next generation's bringing to the table, I think that it is not out of the ordinary to look at these prices and see that people are going to be buying this. But I don't think that people are going to be like going in mindlessly, not like with no education about this. I do think there's a bit of a risk when you look at these digital these digital consoles, like, oh, wait a second. Like, I don't think that because there's never been anything like that before, I think there's a lot of risk of people getting a Series S or an all digital PS5 and waking up, with Miles Morales and whatever games they bought on disc, right? Like they got that as a gift as well, but they can't really use that disc. And I'm really disappointed that both Microsoft and Sony didn't really do anything to make that easier, right? Like there's no process for, if I buy a disc copy of a game, there's nothing, like it's worthless if I own the digital copy, which to me reinforces the thought that these digital consoles are not consoles that they are wanting to sell right now. These are consoles that are really going to play into the year 2 to 4 console life cycle, right? When the price drops next Black Friday, 2021. I don't even want to talk to you about what 2021 looks like for gaming right now, okay? It is insane what is happening because everything's been delayed out of this year, right, into 2021. And then there's all these other, like, prime games coming. So, like, think about next year when the Series S, I will promise you, will be at $249 at a maximum, right? It's going to be Black Friday $249 next year. And then you start to look at things like Game Pass. You look at this PlayStation Plus collection stuff. People are, at this point, I think that people are smart enough to educate themselves, but I do think this digital shift is going to be a little bit rocky at first. And I think there's more danger of people being disappointed on day one with these consoles if they get those digital copies. Now, you start to look at data. Capcom has said 70% of their sales are happening on digital storefronts, right? And Capcom is making Resident Evil, their Devil May Cry, like the big, huge games, right? So Monster Hunter, right? Like
Yep.
huge, popular, not just, casual franchises, not just hardcore franchises. These are franchises that span lots of interests, right? So if they're showing that much, I know Switch is probably the same, if not more.
I mean,
Uh,
like Switch is probably more just purely on the fact that Nintendo's games don't tend to lose value. They don't tend to drop over time. So, like, anytime I see a Switch game, like for
yeah,
Switch, my mindset is immediately like, just get it digitally. There's no point
yeah,
in you have it physically because you're not. The most you might catch is a $10 sale. You might catch a
yeah.
bigger sale digitally.
I'm gonna go in a weird direction real quick, but there's an old Steve Jobs quote about um, vehicles, cars in the United States, and one of the things he talked about was, in the early 20th century, everyone pretty much owned a truck because everyone was pretty agrarian, right? Like a lot of people were farmers. A lot of people
Mm-hmm.
needed that utility to be able to live, right? Well, as we hit the, post World War II era, people moved to suburban areas, people started to live in cities. The paradigm shifted away from having to have a truck to, oh, there are other options now. Let me get this maybe better, safer car, or this better gas mileage, as we've gotten further into the modern era, like better gas mileage or electronic vehicle. And one of the quotes that he said is that, there's never the need for people to buy a truck's never going to go away, right? The paradigm's just shifted where now you don't have to buy a truck, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can buy something that's maybe more fitting for your lifestyle. And that's the same way I look at this disc versus digital debate. I don't think disc is ever going to die. I think that there's going to be people who kick and scream to their graves about, I want to own the disc. Even if the disc is just a 1 kilobyte DRM code, they want to feel like the thing in their hand is a thing they own, right?
Yep.
Even though we know games like Destiny, games like Fortnite, those are like, you can have a disc, but like throw it out like it doesn't do anything. But
Oh,
people
it's there
still
simply to have
that.
you start the game.
Exactly. And I think that when you look at what Sony does, the portfolio that Sony has, they are going to attract that type of gamer. They are all about making games that are AAA, single player, or, very like personal experiences, right? And so it makes sense that you would be buying The Last of Us, God of War. You're buying those games physically because you want a contained experience, right?
Yeah.
Xbox. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was like Burgundy Musk in chat makes a comment, says, I think you'll end up saving more in the long run with discs. I always see hard copies on sale where it takes a lot longer to get digital deals. I love going digital, but I love the extra cash more.
Yeah,
So
and don't worry, we're going to talk about game price in a little bit. We're going to get there eventually. But when I look at these two consoles right now, and actually this is the great time to talk about it. We've kind of flirted around this idea of like, oh, Microsoft's not competing with them. I really don't think Microsoft is competing with Sony anymore. I don't think they have any interest. If you go to Xbox.com right now, scroll up to the very top of the page, do you know what the very first thing in their menu bar is? It is Game Pass. The very second thing is games. The third thing is devices.
Right
so
there, folks.
they don't really want to sell you these devices as much as they want to sell you Game Pass and games, right? And when I look at what Xbox is doing, they are providing, you look at something like All Access. All Access would not be possible without Game Pass. It would not be possible without 2 SKUs that are different in price, right? It is only possible because of the environment that they've created over the past, I'd say probably 3 years. They've really been, since the Series S, the 1S came out, I feel like this is the direction they've been heading toward.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at what Sony is doing, they are, let me head over to PlayStation.com real quick. They are, first thing foremost is games, hardware, then services. So it's almost flipped, right? It's like, here's the great quality games we've got, right? And we're not gonna, that their first party is rock solid. Then here's the thing you buy, and then here's our services, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I look at this and I say, we talked about this extensively last time. I am starting with a PlayStation 5 because I feel like there are more games I want to play on PlayStation 5 from the start than there are on Xbox. And I know that because I have a PC and I have a One X, that I'm going to be able to enjoy those for at least a year. So I don't feel the same urgency that I feel with PlayStation, because PlayStation, well, for a while, said that these games were only going to be PS5 games, right? So there was a lot of urgency to do that.
And that is a perfect segue into the next question I want to ask ourselves here.
Okay.
Actually, and right as I finish here, the second poll just ended. Apparently, the chat is tied between 4K resolution and the high-speed SSD as what they think matters most to them for next gen. But I want to ask, especially on that point there, one of the big things that came out of the PlayStation showcase were the game slates. You know, we talked episodes ago about Halo Infinite, the big Xbox showcase title, being delayed into 2021, and I will be perfectly honest, I was partly concerned, and I was almost sure, like 50% sure, that they were going to delay Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it was going to be in the same boat here, but that's not the case specifically. So this is a two-pronged question. We're going to talk about the price here in a minute, but focus on this one here. One of the questions: Do you think the lack of a specific exclusive set of games may hurt Xbox going into next gen? Because as it stands right now, guys, according to the official PlayStation blog, launch day games from SIE Worldwide Studios. Astro's Playroom is going to be pre-installed, so everybody's going to get that. But Demon Souls, Destruction All-Stars, Marvel Spider-Man Miles Morales, and Sackboy: A Big Adventure all will be PlayStation exclusives at launch. They will be available when you go pick up your PlayStation 5. Do you think that having those big heavy hitter games like that is going to hurt or hinder Xbox? Or do you think that the power of Game Pass is really just basically, what flavor do you want? Do you want the big AAA exclusives, or do you want a slate of 1,000 games and basically pick up where you left off on all the amazing games that we've already gotten this year?
Yeah, I think that a big answer to your question is going to be what it kind of goes back to value, right? Like, if you look at PS5's slate, I will say that between Spider-Man and Demon Souls, just those two games alone are a S plus tier launch lineup. Like, if you think about the different not stereotypes, but personas. I'm sorry, I'm using a design term here. I know personas mean something different in the video game world because they're like, oh, I'm gonna
never see it coming.
Exactly. But when you think about the archetypes, there we go. The types of gamers that are buying consoles day one and are hungry for consoles day one, they're going to fall into pretty much one of a few camps. And the two biggest ones are going to be super mega hardcore gamers, or very enthusiastic, loves games. They may not be super skilled at them, but they just love gaming, right? They want to have the latest tech. They want to see the stuff. Miles Morales is the showcase of, look at how great gaming is. Look at how pretty it is with your literally probably one of the world's most popular superheroes, right?
I saw that Demon Souls footage, man. I don't know.
And Demon Souls is one of those games that super nerdy, super
okay,
mega hardcore nerds love to sink their teeth into, right? And this is a game that's been clamoring for a remake, and Blue Point has knocked it out of the park. So you look at PlayStation 5's lineup, that is awesome. Let's go ahead and count it up. Ready for PlayStation Day 1? $4.99. Cha-ching! Demon Souls, $70. Cha-ching! Spider-Man Miles Morales. Oh, you're going to want that remaster of the Spider-Man game. $70. Cha-ching! So you have already pushed yourself up into... If $4.99 is gone, dude, you're walking out $700, maybe $800, depending on bonus controllers or hardware accessories, right? So you're walking out between $500 and $800 to play these awesome. Now, again, they're exclusive. You can't play them anywhere else, right? So you are incentivized. If you want to play Demon Souls, you're gonna have to pay to play. And this is the same mentality Apple uses. It's the same mentality just about anyone who makes hardware and puts their software
little
on
bit
it.
of FOMO.
Yeah, it's like, if you want Demon Souls, pay to play, dude. You want Spider-Man Miles Morales? Pay to play. Xbox, on the other hand, while their lineup isn't as great, remember, out the door price, $25. It is unbeatable.
It's not even that. There's no upfront cost. You're not paying for that first month. You literally sign up. It's like getting a car or anything. You sign up and you pay nothing for the console. You can walk out the door and boom, like you pay nothing. And then next month you'll pay the $25. So like you get this for Christmas in November on Black Friday. You don't have to pay anything until Christmas Day. That's when you're paying.
Now, if I told you, Cameron, now these are not apples to apples, but like if I told you that if you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber and you purchase a PS5, you would be able to play Spider-Man Miles Morales, Sackboy: A Big Adventure, Destruction All-Stars, and Demon Souls free of charge day one. Do you think that PlayStation 5 would completely dominate this generation? Like, that is...
Oh, I mean, that would be like...
It would be the end, right? But that's what Microsoft is selling. The problem is they don't have those big hitters, right?
It's not in front view right now.
Yeah. And you're going to laugh at me, Cameron, but I think that there are going to be a ton of people playing Destiny 2 on Xbox. I think there are going to be a ton of people...
You're correct, because it's coming to Game Pass. It's already
exactly there. Look at what Netflix did to theaters, and I'm not talking about just 2020, right? Yes, if I were to go to a theater and watch a movie, it's probably a better movie than what is on Netflix, right? Like, if I were to go, and I'm not talking like Marvel or Star Wars, but like let's say I want to go and watch like Scott Pilgrim versus the World back when it came out, right? Like, that was a pretty cool film. I was a big fan of that series. I'll go pay, $15-20 to watch it, right? Nowadays, I can do that, or I can sit down and be like, oh, well, look at that. Like, this new thing is on, like, Stranger Things is on Netflix. Just watch that instead, right? And so now it's no longer about, like, I still want to watch Scott Pilgrim. I still want to see it. But the urgency to consume it has deteriorated because I have an easier, more accessible option that I've already paid for, right? Like, I don't have to pay anything extra. And I think this is where Xbox is going to, and I'm using this word, but don't say, oh, Seth said Game Pass is going to kill Spider-Man. It's not. But it is going to begin to erode that philosophy, right? Because you are right, Cameron. People are strapped for cash this year. And if I could tell you, you can play Gears Tactics, Tetris Effect, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Destiny 2 Beyond Light, all day one on the Xbox Series S for $25. That is what Xbox is selling, not we have the best Spider-Man game, or we have, like, yes, they dream, they hope. I hope a Halo Infinite is amazing. Honestly, I have more excitement. I think that like games like Avowed, these wild cards that look amazing and could truly like blow the lid off of like just imagine. I want you to imagine for a second if a game of Skyrim's caliber and height is exclusive to Xbox, right? You're looking at like a Last of Us situation, right? Where like a game just takes over the industry for an entire month and you can only play it on this one thing. And if Microsoft gets to that point, then I'd say they're on even playing grounds.
Which I think they will. It's just it's a time thing, and I don't want to jump too far on that end personally, but like the Xbox game studios, they just need time. Like Sony studios had time. That was the PS3, PS4 time frame. They had time. They earned that time. PlayStation Worldwide Studios are at the top of their game, but like Xbox, I understand when people say, Xbox doesn't have any games. I get that, but I also know, especially from doing this and talking to you and everybody else, like, give them time. They need time. These studios are just being brought under one umbrella. They don't have the experience or the tenure that Sony has had with all the studios that they have under their umbrella. And give them time and give them give them the the time they need to put the stuff in the oven, and we're going to start seeing those games like Avowed and like these big games that really are going, I think, are going to push Game Pass over the edge. And I think that's what Game Pass needs to go even further beyond than what it's currently at right now, because it is the best value in gaming, bar none.
Yeah.
But like to ascend into like, dude, to get the masses to understand how awesome Game Pass is, they need that killer app. And it very well may start with Halo Infinite when it comes out next year.
Yeah. So I'm getting ready to bounce it back over to you. I know I've been chewing your ears off, everyone, but like I said, it's been swelling up, right? This is what we're here to talk about. So games are a big component of this. I think we really well covered what's happening on that front, right? Like Sony's really focused on exclusive experiences you can only play here. Microsoft is focused on providing as much value as possible with Game Pass to keep you playing on Xbox, right? Mm-hmm. So we can't talk about just the games, though. I think there are a lot more that goes into these. One of the things I want to touch on is these actual hardware itself, right?
Okay.
Between the PlayStation 5s, basically, I'm going to call it like a unilateral approach, right? They have one box. They've just given you the option to have a disk drive or no, right? But they have very clear, like, we think this is the way that next gen should look and feel. Whereas Microsoft has taken a dual approach, right? Where they are having two different products for two different types of customers, and honestly, two different use cases. One, throw in a backpack. Focuses on, excelling on PC monitors, right? It's not really targeting a lot of 4K televisions. The other one, super powerhouse, right? So what do you think is going to happen, Cameron, when we get into this next generation? And I'm not talking about exclusives. I'm talking about your games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, Watch Dogs Legions, these big AAA third-party games that whether or not you think it or not, these are what actually drive a lot of people to buy games, or like a lot of next gen like people. I would say more people are probably going to spend more hours playing Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War than they are going to be spending playing Demon's Souls, right? Like
Call of Duty, yeah.
Call of Duty is the most popular game every year over year. Heck, it might even, honestly, Call of Duty as a game will be more popular than Spider-Man because it's on a ton of different platforms. Whether or not that plays out on PlayStation 5 alone, we'll see. But like, what happens when people start booting these up? And really, honestly, we start to see these Digital Foundry videos come out. What do you think might happen as we start to see how these games may be pushing things forward or holding things back and next generation? And yeah, I am kind of masking this as this, like, do you think that these lower powered hardware are going to hold things back? I think that's like the boogeyman concern that a lot of people have.
And it's a valid concern. It's a valid concern.
Because I think that as much as Xbox is going to have to deal with that on having two different SKUs that target two different power points, not Microsoft PowerPoint, points of power, that's what I meant. PlayStation has kind of created that problem for themselves with this awesome launch lineup by saying, oh, all this shit's coming to PS4 as well. So like now everyone's like, well, is the Series X holding back? Sorry, is the Series S holding back?
Series
Xbox?
X.
Is putting Miles Morales on PS4 holding things back? So what do you think, Cameron? Do you think that the differences in this hardware are creating problems for this, or do you think this is blown out of proportion and we've reached the kind of the plateau of like, hey, you're not going to really see crazy improvements anymore. It's more going to be about consistent frame rates and resolutions?
My short answer would probably say I don't think so. The long answer of it is I think one of the benefits as to why I don't think this is going to happen, and I'll be honest, probably if you asked me at the beginning of the year or late last year, I might have had a different answer. But a lot of the conversations that I've read, especially with Phil Spencer, talking about the Project Lockhart at the time, kind of on and off, was that, and I think sometimes we forget about it, is that both, like, last generation was the first generation where we had consoles that were not custom chip sets. These console systems were x86 based architecture. I'm not going to get into any techie mumbo jumbo, but more or less, they are based on traditional PC architecture, just like you would on your normal computer. And I know a lot of, here come the PC Master Race people with their long flowing locks coming into the chat now. Like, whoa, yes, you've beckoned us. Like, PC players have long since never had that problem. If you have a computer with a 1660 Ti, you can run it at 1080p, and if you try and go any further, it's going to tell you no, no, no. But if you have a computer with a 3090, unleash the Kraken. Like, do whatever you want. It will play Crysis. Like, that sort of thing happens, and I think that not only in the PS4 and Xbox One generation, moving to that PC architecture really helped developers a lot, especially after the PS3 generation and that cell processor. God. Especially with the initial runnings of the Xbox and the PowerPC based architecture that they were running. Like, it's especially for indie developers, it's probably helped out a lot in porting games over from PC to console. That's why I think we've seen a huge influx of indie games come onto console, and vice versa. For big AAA developers, it gives them a lot of leeway to, and funny enough, I'm just thinking about this right now. Dinaru in chat says you called the PC Master Race. That's right, I did. I blew the horn. It really helps these console developers understand, like, okay, or people that maybe had devs that were well-versed in PC architecture and PC game development. Now they can come over to console and say it's not as far of a leap on the console area as it was, or it was before. And I think one of the big reasons this is very telling is in the pure fact, especially with Sony, that you are seeing a lot more of the games they are working on or helping to work on come to PC. Horizon Zero Dawn, Death Stranding, Demon Souls, I think, is maybe coming to PC, maybe not. I'm not 100% sure with that. Like, these games that have this chance now of popping up on PC, and I think a main reason of that is that architecture. And so, really hearing those talks on Phil and just really understanding and learning more about, like, how these architecture works for these new consoles, because these new consoles are still PC architecture based. Mm-hmm. Like, I think it means very much that the consoles will now have that capabilities to where the developers can code them just like PC games, and basically saying, okay, here is the game, I'm reading that you have a 1440p monitor, so I'm going to download these 2K assets. Oh, no, wait, you have a 4K monitor now. Scrub that. Give me the 4K assets. Let me download all of these now. And I love that. That is great. That I think the fact that consoles this current generation went to PC architecture was like one of the biggest underdog, like, yes, you did it, like, big things. Yeah. It may not be something that we saw initially, but for game developers, AAA and indie, I think it was a big boon for them, and I'm sure they were all, like, cheering, like, yes, finally, this one standard. And I think that in doing that, of course, this show is console wars, so we understand that a little bit. Of course, you're going to have your people on each camp going, you're holding us back. But I really think that concern isn't really as valid, if valid at all, as it used to be back in the PS3, 360 going to PS4, Xbox One generation. I think that these consoles are going to, and honestly, I would, I haven't seen much from Sony, but the fact of the matter is they're both the same damn console, so it doesn't really matter as much to Sony. But specifically on that point, talking to Xbox, I think that whether you get the Xbox Series S or the Series X, Microsoft has been working tirelessly this generation on their back-end stuff, on their services. So I think they have made a very capable setup to where it will intelligently know Do I have the Series S? I only need this data. Do I need have the Series X? I only need this data. I can adjust and make the tweaks graphically however I need to, but still offer that ease of use and where it's doing all this stuff in the background, but the end user only has to flip a switch to say performance mode or high res mode. That's my answer. You probably think the same way.
Well,
I don't know.
I have a weird. You mentioned right at the end here performance mode versus resolution mode, and I was very disappointed to hear that that's a thing that's happening in next generation. I kind of expected this upcoming generation to give developers the power they need to make the experiences they want to make. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm very scared of, particularly Sony doing, is continuously pushing resolution into this endless, unbeatable, like, treadmill of progress that leads in no direction whatsoever, right? You are, like, I was very disappointed when I started to hear Sony talk about 8K. I'm like, what? The only reason Sony would talk about 8K is to sell 8K TVs that they'll eventually produce, right? Like, 8K is completely illogical and irrational Sony, to like talk about.
Microsoft has talked about. They haven't talked about it very often. I don't think either most of these have, but I have heard Microsoft talk about 8K as well. And I
mean both of them have.
I think I'm sorry. I'm just adding in. I think part of the reason for that is that both of these consoles have the new HDMI 2.1 standard, which is more or less kind of like, we're future-proofing your system if or whenever 8K becomes more prominent. But continue on, I'm sorry.
And so, like, when I think about what PC gamers really love, the 3080s came out today. People are buying that shit up, right? Mm-hmm. I'm very interested to see how many people are buying those that actually have high refresh 4K monitors, right? There may be some people that have 4K monitors, but they're running at 60 hertz, right? They're not refreshing at the rate that they're getting any benefit beyond 60 frames per second. Maybe, up to 75 or 120, you'll see a little bit of that. And then you have other people who, like me, who are running on a 1080p, but really love that high refresh rate monitor, right? So that's, on PC, you kind of get to choose, right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things when I look at consoles, I was kind of hoping, like, the whole point of a console is that, like, it is a single inclusive experience, right? PCs are powerful, but they're also complex. Sorry, I was going to say convoluted, but I think that's too harsh of a word. They're complex. They have drivers. They have, I've told the story many times about my girlfriend's, the LED driver on her monitor that powers the LED lights.
Oh, I remember that.
Causing
I so remember that
crash.
That was weird.
And it's like, it took us forever to figure that out, right? And while I'm not saying that consoles don't have problems, but generally consoles, if you have a problem with it, you wipe the hardware or you wipe the software, fixes it most of the time, right?
Reinstall, done.
Reinstall, right? If you don't have or if it's something beyond that, swap out the hard drive, right? On PlayStation, you can do that. This next generation, I don't think you can do that anymore, but the fact of the matter being that, like, consoles are more of a plug-and-play experience, so I was kind of expecting more plug-and-play settings, right? Like, I was kind of like, when I heard Ratchet & Clank was like, oh, you're going to get to choose between 4K consistently or, 60 frames per second. I was like, dude, like, I heard these things are beast machines. Why isn't it doing both? Oh, the answer is because they've actually spent all that extra power making particle effects and things like that. And so I'm a little disappointed in that because I really want... You look at a game like Dark Souls, and Demon Souls is going to be a factor of that. There's a friend of mine that I know that he buys every single Dark Souls game on PC because it runs at 60 frames per second. Those are games that are made for pixel perfect precision, right? And my expectation is that Demon Souls will run at 60 frames per second. My expectation is that it will run at 4K, right? Mm-hmm. At that thing. If they're not, then I'm really concerned about the priorities that developers are putting into spending this new hardware power And I understand we're at the front of the generation, so maybe I'm being a little bit unfair.
I was gonna say, like, do you think that it could be because we are at the start of the generation, and could that be something that once the developers have more time with these next gen systems, just like we've seen time and time again each generation, that like at the tail end it's gonna be like, oh my god, all the rays and stuff. So.
Because I think there's a lot of people out there that had that moment when they remember plugging in their HD TV and they were like, oh my God, look at the quality, right? We had it on the 360, right? When you came from the Xbox to the 360 or from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, you were like, whoa, HD is insane. And I think the same thing happened with these Pro iterations in 4K. People were like, wow, look at how much better it looks. I don't think you're going to be feeling the same way when you plug in this theoretical 8K TV, because you've reached this point already where things look so good. We've reached the point of diminishing returns. What I want now is I want consoles to not become complicated PC-like boxes. I want them to be a thing that I sit on my desk, I put a game in, or I click play on the game, and I have fun with the game, and I know I'm getting the, maybe not the best experience, but I'm getting the best, most streamlined experience to play that game, right? I don't want to go in and have to tinker with VSync. I want to go in and be like, oh, does this game have NVIDIA bullshit, Cinco, whatever, sync machine or whatever? Oh, dude, I got a driver update because the driver is apparently broken. Like, people don't want that.
And honestly, you know what? I don't think we're going to get to that. I think from a console standpoint, the most we're going to get is that in the settings, that one little toggle switch that says performance mode. What would you like to favor? Performance or resolution? Yes, and I agree. And like, funny enough, Rurutu in chat brings up a point as well. I haven't really thought about, like, also need to educate mass consumers on the difference between high refresh rate and high resolution. You can't have both at the same time. And maybe that could be it. Maybe it's something where, you know, like we talked about, like, the developers just haven't had time to work with the hardware yet. I mean, honestly, right now, with the 3080s and the 3000 series GPUs coming out, PC players are just now getting to a point where they can run 4K 60 frames comfortably on their games, on their PC systems. And, you know, the consoles, of course, are playing catch up and always have to play catch up because they're not that complex. And console gamers don't want that complexity. It's like comparing between Apple, you know, no offense to any Android fans out there, but comparing between Apple and Android. Like, Apple has this streamlined, very easy to use interface. Then Android, a lot of people that end up getting Android phones are very much tinkerers and people that want to go in there and play with the settings. But Apple, I have an iPhone. I don't want to go in there and mess with my settings just to fine tune and tweak every little thing. And so,
listen, now I gotta say, adding widgets, the photo widget that just randomly spits out memes that I have from 3 years ago is great. I love that experience, but I digress. Please continue.
I haven't had to experience it just yet. So, but no, I think that that is that big thing, and Naruto makes a good point as far as, like, you know, you want. Even the PC market isn't caught up to that point where, like, if you want 240 frames, that's great. Guess what? You're not going to get it on a 4K monitor. You're just not.
Yeah.
Where the industry isn't there yet. If you want 4K, guess what? You're not going to. A flip side around there, you're not going to have this 165 hertz monitor just yet because, frankly, there is not any hardware on the PC market unless for some reason you have $1,500 to blow on a 3090.
Yeah.
And even then, we don't have the tests right now to see if that is even really possible. And so that could be the point there. I don't, you know, I'm with you. When I have the console experience, I want to jump in and play. I think that kind of one of your comments you made earlier, when we get to these Digital Foundry presentations, that could be potentially where we see that discrepancy in that 1 to 2 teraflops of power between the GPUs on the Xbox and the PlayStation 5. It may be the other way around. I don't know. We're going to find... I promise you by the end of the year, we will know. Digital Foundry is going to be like, we're going to take it apart all these bad boys. But I think that is... I think that a valid concern, but I would not be too concerned about it. Yeah. I think these things are going to be just as simplistic as they've always been.
I got a question for you. Got another question for you. So, Sony has made it very clear that games now cost $70. And I don't think anyone's going to argue it. The only games that are not going to be $70 from this point moving forward for next gen consoles are going to be ones that had already kind of said they're not going to be $70. Circa Cyberpunk, right? Cyberpunk will be a game that is still $60.
But they're gonna feel I'm poking fun, but they're gonna feel real bad that they didn't ask for $70 because they would have gotten it in a heartbeat.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, and you know, CD Projekt Red is proud of the fact that they are a very pro. I'm not using the word. It's a stupid word. But I've always wanted to provide
value-oriented
value. Yeah, they want to provide value to gamers. And so they do that by being very transparent and being very upfront about their intentions and their thoughts and what they want to do, right? On the other hand, a lot of other companies will try and mask or hide things behind obscurities and things like that. But all in all, games are now $70. That's the standard price for games, right? You look at Sony's recent event; every game that's on PlayStation 5 is $70.
Yeah, they bumped up and said that.
Do you think?
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I know. I was going to say, do you think that by Sony being like, "Yep, we're 70 now," like flipping the switch so quickly and briskly, that they have created an environment that Xbox can now step in again, and this, I don't want us to get caught back in value too much, but with Game Pass Ultimate being $15 a month, what if I told you you could get 4.5 months of gaming for the price of one PlayStation 5 game, right? And if you will buy an average of 3 games a year, which I think the average is actually higher than that you are going to be better off buying the Xbox when it comes to playing games, because you're going to have more access to more games for the same price.
Yeah, I think.
Do you think that Sony is in a risky situation here with this increase in price?
I think that. Again, I think I saw a chart somewhere that somebody maybe had taken a poll and said about average average game purchases for people are like 2 to 3 games a month, something like that. Okay. Yeah, Barutu in chat says I'm only averaging 1 new game at launch price once a year these days. Way too many games on Steam sales under $10. And I also read in the chat. Do you think it's okay to pay $70 for games now? 67% said no. People are getting mad at me, but I say this because I have to stick to my guns on what I've said in the past on the podcast before. Not only this one, but on Rocket Punch Show, is that people have already flirted with this. I think Take-Two's talked. They said some of their games are going to be $70 now. Don't be surprised if more developers come out and say that $70 is the standard for games now. And I also want to caveat, as well, I don't think $70 is bad to pay for games now in 2020. I think that I will caveat that into say I understand why people are upset. I understand that it's not a situation you want to be in because it's just more money. The thought process is it's more money for the same thing that I've always gotten before. And it's just for me, and this is not poking fun at anybody, or if it is, I'm wrapping myself in there as well. It is, in my mind, the same consumerist mentality, just consumerism as a whole, is that, and just, not even just consumerism, that we want the most stuff for the least amount of price. Period. Like, if I can sell you a Tesla Model S for $5,000, boy howdy, you're going to jump on that shit in a heartbeat. Like, no question about it.
I'd say Steam's built an empire on that philosophy.
Yeah. But what everybody forgets, because we have our thing and we're so happy and we want to play it, is that there's blood, sweat, and tears on these developers that go into making these great experiences for you and developing these brand new open worlds that don't have any loading times and have ray tracing and God rays are coming through the ceiling. And, sometimes I think we as gamers sometimes forget what goes into making a game. This is years of hard work that goes into that. And that's not to say that, of course, it's a business. It's flat out business. It's not all going to the developers. It's going to the publishers too. They're using it for asset. I don't have a business degree. I'm not going to get into that. But one of my big things is that games have been $60 for decades, not even years, decades. We have, when this idea, correct me if I'm wrong, Seth, this idea was kind of flirted around at the end of the PS3 360 generation, going into PS4 and Xbox One, and people lost their shit. And I think now, partly because of the fact of the huge leap in technological achievements, this might be a rant, but bear with me. I feel like this needs to say
12 rants tonight. Do it, dude.
Take a breath, get some water, Seth. Understand and remember, I am 33 years old. I remember back in the PS3 and 360 generation that I was a teenager getting out of high school, going into college, stuff like that. And as a college student, you're telling me $70 a game? Fuck no. What are you doing, man? I'm eating ramen over here with my water and reusing the same cup every day. I can't handle that. And I'm exaggerating, but you understand my point.
Can I raise you another question relating to that? Because people love to talk about I can't afford that. Do you think that you in college today, in the year of our Lord 2020, would be playing these kinds of games that require $70 purchases 1 to 2 times a month, right? I think that it is much more likely. I know I was this way. I played a shit ton of League of Legends, Heroes of the Storm. I did play Fortnite when it first came out. Apex is still very popular. I think that there is this option to play games. Warzone, right? Allows you to play Call of Duty, a game that you would never ever touch for less than $60 at launch and probably even $30 years afterwards, right? You couldn't even touch that game for less than that. Now you can play it for free. Right? Now it's a battle royale, but play it for free. So I think that because of the games as a service model kind of rising to power, and I would say the biggest games in the world are now games as a service, Sony can start to look at these games like these one sitting, or you play them for a week or 2 weeks and then you're done with them, right? You can start to look at them more as a premium product. And so do you think that Cameron sorry, what?
Go ahead. No, finish.
Well, do you think that I didn't look at anything? I'm sorry if I spoiled.
No, you're good. No, you're fine. I'm.
Do you think that that's really going to impact that person, that college student who's eating ramen, because they're probably just playing Warzone or Apex or something else that they can play for free? I put over 400 hours into Heroes of the Storm and didn't pay a red cent for it, right? And that's just the type of consumer they are.
Yes, I think you're right. I'm with you on that one. I think my point I'm thinking about as well is that one of the points of many, and I see people talking in chat and they bring up some good points I want to talk about too with this, is that number one of my points is that we were young. Gaming as a hobby, relative to other hobbies, is quite young. Gaming started as a big thing back in the mid to late 80s, and now we're in 2020. So be generous, 40 years of video games as a big hobby. I remember in school when I would tell people that I love Final Fantasy VII, they would look at me and go, "Nerd, you geek." And then now I can talk to those same people and they're like, "Oh, dude, man, Final Fantasy is great. I can't wait for 16. I can't wait for Madden 21 and all those other games." I'm like, "You son of a bitch." And it's the point I'm trying to make with that is that we have grown up. This generation, like you and me, Seth, we have grown up with these games. And whereas before, I think one of the reasons why we balked at 60, more money than $60 for a game was because our generation were the people buying the games for the most part. And now we are in our late 20s, 30s, higher, and we have, I say the majority of people have stable jobs, they have stable income, and we've learned more. We're in a very technological age where we have phones that are basically computers, and phones on our or computers on our watches, and these 3080s. I got 2 freaking computers that I'm using to stream one video to the internet because, sure, I can do that. And I was talking to Seth about building a third one. He's like, "You're a fucking maniac."
You're an insane maniac, dude. You have to be stopped.
But
Chad, stop him.
But Rutu and Chat says, "I still call you nerd every time I come in here. Nothing's changed." He's right, he does. But like coming in, I think that because we've grown up, we understand this technology more, which in turn makes us appreciate and see those values more. That's why I think that now in 2020, a perfect example is Xbox. At 2013, when the Xbox One rolled out and they had all these initiatives about like always online and these, that may not have been the best time to do that right now. But I would bet money if, maybe not the always online part, but like stuff like the family sharing plan and a lot of other initiatives that they had back in 2013, if they talked about them now in 2020, it would be much more receptive because of the big technological leaps we've made. And I think that's why one of the main reasons that I think that $7 is okay. I have learned in the almost 5 years that I've been doing content creation, and all the time I've been in games and learning more about game development and things like that, that it costs more. And it's been costing more for us to get these full-on experiences. Before, when we were growing up, we didn't have full open worlds with ray tracing. Man, I was happy with this little pixelated cloud figure with the gold spiky hair running around in these like painted pre-rendered backgrounds. But now we're getting to this point where now we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, freaking an Unreal Engine 4, and like the quality of work is vastly different now than what it was back then. And I think that there are some gamers out there that just plain forget that. And again, back to that mentality that consumerism, we want to get the most stuff for the least amount of money. And that's why I think some people, they see like, oh, we're going to go up to $70, like, oh my God, this is bullshit. And I will definitely say, I think now in 2020, that's a very small minority in the group. I've watched on Twitter people's reaction to this, and there really hasn't been that big of a reaction on it. I think some people were already getting prepared for it with Take-Two and these other third parties coming in. And really, I think that the fact that these people at the top are starting to say it's going to be this much now, probably in about they're getting you ready, because in about 2 to 3 years, every game's gonna, like you said, Seth, every game's gonna be $70, and that's gonna be the standard. Because, and I think I read an interview with Jim Ryan where he talked about, like, we did that because that let me actually bring it back up here. I'll read some of the comments in the point in the chat here to kind of back up what I'm talking about. Number one, I want to give shout outs to Rurutu. He says in chat, you know what I want to see? Game publishers can raise the game price if they treat the game devs like human beings. Hashtag truth on that.
I want to jump in. I saw that comment. I don't think that the people who make the consoles, being Sony and Microsoft, are the guilty parties in that particular zone. I think that if you are a game developer, the dream is to be acquired by Microsoft or Sony. Yeah. Because especially Sony, I mean, do you want me to tell you who I think the best game developer to work for is? I cannot recall their name right now, but whoever made Dreams.
Media Molecule.
They made 0 video games for like 6 years, and they basically worked on like this weird side project that launched, and I bet you anything that game flopped so fucking hard. Like, that game was absolutely like, that was a Kool-Aid drinking, like, oh yeah, Sony's great, man, look at this guy. Like, that was not even a game, but they got an opportunity to build this dream passion project. And I know Burgundy's Musk mentioned Assassin's Creed. Now, Assassin's Creed was a game forged in the minds of video games, right? This was a game that hundreds of people spent hundreds of hours.
Still haven't beaten it.
Yeah, like we learned about how bad things were at Ubisoft this year, right? So Origins, Odyssey, those games were made under that yoke, and of pressure that they were feeling, right? And so when you talk about this, please, I encourage you, don't blanket statement that all publishers do this. I think there are a lot of really great publishers. Annapurna.
Annapurna? Oh, dude, I love Annapurna.
Devolver Digital, another great publisher. Now, yeah, those are smaller ones, but also like Sony, Microsoft. I do think, obviously, video game EA bad, right? Like, I'm sure that there have been times in EA's past. I think they learned a lot from Respawn, right? Like, Respawn has been not really crunching, and they've been doing pretty well. But like, I do want to encourage you to, keep an open mind that like not all publishers are the bad guys.
Yeah. That's a good point to make. I think
I've spent a long time saying basically like don't think all publishers are the bad guys because they are a necessary part of the video game cycle. But anyways, please continue.
But like the other 2 points, and I'm going to kind of combine these comments before because it kind of revolves around the same thing. Burgundy Musk in chat says earlier on, there's a difference for the $70 games. It's a Destiny. If it's a Destiny, Call of Duty, or any multiplayer game, I'm fine with $70. A 10 to 20 hour single player campaign, I'll wait for the sale. And then Sniper Eye also says in the comment, my thing is this, if the game price goes up, DLC price should go down or come more at launch. And I want to speak on Burgundy Musk's point. I understand that. I'm almost in the sense that is flipped. And the reason for that is kind of piggybacking off of what Sniper Eye is saying in chat. I think games are more or less going to go to $70 this upcoming generation.
Yeah.
Please understand that neither myself nor Seth, nor do I think anybody who's listening here is ever naive enough to think that game developers. Let me step that back. That game publishers are seriously going to say, if the game is $70, we'll drop down the cost of DLC and season passes and all that other good stuff. Just because we're making the money now, everything's fine. No, sir. They have to see, as Seth will tell you, they have to see the numbers go up. And if they can get away with saying $70 and still sell you and sell that group of people that $40, $50 season pass, they will 100% do it. Do not kid yourself into thinking that they won't. Back on Burgundy Musk's point, I would more so say, because a lot of the times when you see these season passes and these DLCs, they're part of the multiplayer games. Think about Destiny and the expansions that you buy per year. Think about Call of Duty and the season passes that people buy every year. The multiplayer games like Fortnite, even the free-to-play games, think how much they push season pass. Like, season passes are out. It's Battle Pass now. That's the new hotness. That's the new hot word there. And imagine...
Isn't a Battle Pass kind of a season?
Yes, it's a season pass with fewer steps or more steps, depending on how you look at it. But
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to throw you.
I would say, and I think it's the reason that Sony, with their studio set, is saying $70 a game, because their studios are such craftsmen. And the other one is that they make the majority of them, because I know Destruction All-Stars is coming out, and we're going to see how that does. Like, the majority of these games, as you will ask Seth, are third-person single player experiences with these worlds, and they are crafting these worlds to be beautiful and whatnot. For the most part, you're not getting like season passes and stuff like that. They may offer an expansion once or twice down the road, but it's not something that is or makes you feel that you're required to get it. I know a lot of people that played through Horizon Zero Dawn that never even touched the Frozen Wilds expansion pack. Mm-hmm. I know people who waited until the complete edition came out that had both of them bundled in for the same price. And I think that's still going to happen, but I would personally say I would wait for the sale on some of the multiplayer games that have the season passes, maybe if those season passes go on sale, more so than the single player experiences. Yes, it may be 10 to 20 hours, but I'm a little biased because I'm a very busy man. And I got a lot of shit going on in my life, and I can't necessarily play Persona for 100 plus hours anymore within a short
weakness.
But
Weakness.
I like 10 to 20 hours for a single player campaign. If it's like high crafted, gorgeous world, and you can see the work that's put in. Like I'm okay with paying that $70 if it's something that I want to get into right now. And again, I want to say if it's something like your point is not invalid, Bernie Musk, or anybody else who thinks that way. If you're like, I'm a multiplayer centric gamer, because I would probably consider myself a more single player centric gamer. But if you're multiplayer centric and you're like, I don't really want to pay $70 for a single player experience that I'm only going to play for 20 plus hours, it might be a mind blowing experience, but I don't want to do that. Guess what? Wait. Don't buy it immediately. Wait until that complete edition comes out where everything's bundled together for a lower price. Wait until it goes on sale. There's nothing wrong with that. And we all have that FOMO, like, oh, if I don't get in right now, then I'm going to miss this and whatnot. There are too many great games across the entire plethora of Xbox and PlayStation and PC and Nintendo Switch and fucking Atari and Stadia, sure, that, like, for you can't play everything. I can't play everything. Like, you're not going to be able to. I trained myself a long time ago, like, I just buy the games that I want to buy. The games you see right over here, the books and the figurines and stuff, those are games that I bought. I gotta have this. I'm a fan of Final Fantasy. I'm a fan of Overwatch. I'm buying this game. I want to be a part of that ecosystem now. There are a ton of other games that you may not see over there. There are a bunch that are sitting under my desk in the front that are just like, you know what? I'm really interested in that game, but I just don't know if I want to pay that much money for it right now. I'm going to wait on it. And somebody asks me my honest opinion. I'm going to tell you my honest opinion. Like, one of my friends would always ask me, like, when, granted this is a horrible example, but like, Anthem, is it good? Should I get it? And I'll be like, no, dog, don't get it. Like, you should just wait. You're not missing anything on that. But if it's, dude, should I get The Last of Us Part 2? Hell freaking yes, if you're going to ask me. Like, get that game. That is an experience that you need to have in your life. But, no, the big thing, again, I don't think that, and Burgundy Musk, with another comment later on, says, higher game price or DLC. You can't have both ways. You can't charge $70 for Mortal Kombat when you don't get the complete game until you pay $40 for the expansion pass for all the characters. Again, do not be fooled into thinking that publishers, being very specific, publishers will not try that. If that happens, again, we've seen it before with the egregious season passes that have happened with, like, Shadow of War and Batman Arkham City. We have to be, as a community, being like, no, we don't want this. We'll live with the $70, but how about you work with us a little bit and you maybe take $10 off the price of that season pass? Because, like, if the other thing to think about, and the reason why they're going to do this, is that $70, that means that, with season passes, maybe 5 to 10% of people got the season pass for a game. Sure, that's $30, but that's a small slice of the pie of the overall player base. As opposed to, if every game is $70, that means they're making $10 off of every game. So they're actually making more money raising the price, the base price, a little bit more. So if that's something that, if we can work as a community to say, like, look, when we see that egregious behavior, squash it. Like, we gotta handle that. But getting to the end of my rant, for all those reasons, I do not believe that $70 is a bad price. And it's not because Sony's doing it, even though I'm the PlayStation guy. Like, I was shocked as anybody else, and I still think it's a bummer. Like, crap, I gotta pay, I'm sitting here like, fuck, I gotta pay $70 for Miles Morales, damn it. But I'm also like, but that's being, hopefully some of that is also being passed to the developers as well. It's going to be able to help sustain a lot more jobs in the gaming industry, and go towards making much better, higher quality products, especially when we get back to the tail end of this generation with the Series X and the PlayStation 5, and seeing the amazing games and titles that come out of that. If that's, if that all that takes is that, hey, I guess, an extra $10 a month, it's been $60 for literally decades. It's about time. I think it's time for us as gamers to see that point, and I think it's already started. And I think the majority of the gaming culture is, just kind of either okay or resigning themselves with the fact that, okay, it's going to be $70.
Yeah, and I want to jump in here and talk for just a little bit because earlier on in this, I said that Microsoft's not competing with Sony anymore. It's a phrase that's been thrown around a lot recently, and I still agree. World population, I think, is 7.8 billion people, right? Fun fact, 2.5 billion of those are gamers. That's an enormous number of people. So when we talk about, I one of the things that just drives me crazy, Cameron, and it does so even more so this generation, is when someone says this person won, right? We always have this who won E3, who won this generation, right? And this show is even, we do a segment at the end where who won this month, right? Who do we think had the better strategy this month, right? And now we kind of, when someone asks that question, they say, oh, well, Sony won because they have Dark Soul or Demon Souls, they have Miles Morales, and Microsoft doesn't have anything. You're going to ask the next person who, doesn't have $800 to drop down on the PlayStation 5 with all the games and the peripherals, and they're going to be like, well, Xbox won because they're the one I can afford, right? So what I think gaming is all about now is all about people are going to there's so many people playing games. People are going to consume things in the way that they want, right? That's how the free market works, right? If people don't want to pay $70 for a game, they're not gonna. Now, I'll give a great example here. Spider-Man Miles Morales is, sorry, that's a bad example. Demon Souls remake, that's a $70 game, right? People are going to pay it because they have seen the quality of that game. They've seen the tender love and care that has been put into that game, and they are ready to buy that game for that price. Let's rewind to earlier this year and look at a game like, let's look at a game like, I'll pick on Sony a little bit here. What was that zombie game with the motorcycle? Days Gone. Would people have spent $70 on Days Gone? I don't think a lot of people spent $60 on Days Gone, right? It was a game that didn't review really well. It was kind of a meh.
It wasn't bad, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
It wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. And that is, I've said for years, that is Sony's biggest risk. If they ever stop making bangers, their entire everything will crumble around them, right? Microsoft has set everything up to destroy them if they ever consistently release bad games, right? Now, they're not going to because they've got the talent, right? But they've invested in that category, right? I pulled up this article from today where Jim Ryan's talking about like Game Pass would not work for us. Our pitch, as you've heard, is new games, great games. We have had the conversation before. We are not going down the road of putting new releases in a subscription model. They don't want to. That doesn't make sense for them because they are Apple. They want to sell you a product that you can only consume their thing on. They are the movie theater. They want you to come to us and watch Avengers Endgame. Come to us and watch Star Wars The Force Awakens. You can't see it for another couple months, or a couple years in some cases, on other platforms. You got to come here to consume it in the best possible, what we think is the best possible way. Microsoft is the Netflix. They are like, we don't want to make Spider-Man yet. We would love the opportunity to, but realistically we can't. We will hopefully have games of that caliber, but right now what we are focused on is getting you playing on our consoles, and the way they can do that is by providing you with a great value through Game Pass. And I think, again, I've got to wait for Digital Foundry to back this up, but I think that generally speaking, games are going to run better on Series X than they are going to on PlayStation 5, just from a raw numbers perspective, right? And I think that there is a type of gamer who that's really going to bug. And you look at what happened this generation, Xbox lost a lot of fans, not just because of the price or the Kinect, but just because games didn't run well on it, right? Like, if Call of Duty doesn't run as well on PlayStation as it does on Xbox, people are going to start making purchasing decisions around that, right? Especially when the purchase decision's as low as $2.99, right? Or $15 or $25, $30 a month, right? Like, that's it starts to make it very easy for people to transition away, right? And so that's where, when I look at these two companies, they are not even competing in the same world anymore. If anybody's competing with Sony, it's Nintendo. And they've already stepped 4 steps ahead of them in a lot of areas. I mean, they took the PS Vita out back and, you know, old yellered it, right? Like
Well, I mean, they had exclusives before it was cool, like Mario, Zelda,
I mean, they had exclusives,
Donkey Kong,
and you wish that Sony could move units like Animal Crossing did. You wish that Sony could move attachment rates like Breath of the Wild had, right? Like, what was it, 68% or something attachment rate?
It's a stupidly large number.
It's a stupidly large number. And so when you look at these companies competing with each other, we now have 3 totally different lanes that are happening all at the same time. Just like cell phones have like you have your Apple, very premium product, high price, great experience, but a little bit limited when it comes to choice. You have Samsung, whatever. If you want it, we've got it. It's got a stylus. You can pick your nose and control it. You can. It's got everything. And look at this one. This one's sponsored by Fortnite, so get it, right? Like, there's that. Then there's Google Pixel, right? Which is like pure Android. It's all the things you love about Android with none of the extra fluff. 3 totally different lanes that you can drive in for your phone experience, right? All of them multi-billion-dollar, you know, approaches to them. So I don't think that just because one is selling better that, you know, because if you look at like, let me ask you, Cameron, who won phones? Who is winning phones right now?
Based on pure numbers, I would say the edge would go to like Samsung over Apple, because I think Apple still doesn't have like a very large market share.
So like Android is winning from numbers. Apple's the most valuable company on our planet, right?
Yeah.
So who's winning, right? Like, it depends on what you're.
It's perspective,
right? Yeah, like if I'm a developer and I'm talking about like an app developer, I'm a product person, so I'll tell you, people will spend money to buy things on iOS much more than they would on Android. In fact, Android is much more likely that they will pirate your thing into oblivion, so much so that you will literally go bankrupt. So that's why a lot of people are like, well, why don't they release this app on Android? Because if they did, the server upkeep of it would, you know, completely consume them. So like at the end of the day, my point is that there's no way to win, because the metric for winning is different for everyone, right? So when you look at what's happening, Sony is Apple from the standpoint of they're making oogos of money. They have won the hearts and minds of gamers, right? They love them. But I mark my words, there are going to be more people playing Xbox within the next 5 years than PlayStation's, because Xbox has made it so easy to play. There are a lot of,
like you said, like their metric, when you say that point of like people are playing Xbox, that means that they could be playing on the Series X, they could be playing on the Series S, they could be playing on PC, they could be playing on mobile phones. They have more doors open to them than PlayStation does. Where if you PlayStation 5, it's a PlayStation 5 or digital. That's it.
Yeah.
Like,
so let me give you some cultural examples that Microsoft has cited in the past. So in America, we're pretty privileged. We can pretty much choose to play the games the way we want to, right? People are talking about how all these 3080s are selling out. Everyone builds their PCs, right? We are pretty privileged in that. When you look at a country, when you look at certain countries in Africa, right, that have, you know, everyone thinks that Africa may have like a lot of really poor third world countries. That's not the case. There are a lot of actually really nice, amazing, beautiful countries over there.
South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
Very affluent.
But culturally, the people, the culture doesn't go out and buy consoles. What they do, and a lot of that has to do with like access to internet, right? Like internet's a little bit different. It's different how you get internet in different countries and cultures. And so one of the things that's very accessible for them are gaming on their mobile phones. Now, that doesn't mean that they just want to play Candy Crush all day. No, they want to play Spider-Man. They want to play Sea of Thieves. They want to play these big games. They just don't have access to them, right? So all they end up with is Candy Crush, right? And what Microsoft wants to do is bring that. Think of it as an entire country that would never be able culturally. You look at how like Xbox doesn't touch in Japan, right? Like the numbers are laughably low in Japan. That's because people in Japan have that brand loyalty to Sony and Japanese-based companies. In South Africa, you're going to have folks who have the means and the drive and the passion to be able to play stuff. It's just the only thing they have is their phone. So now this entire country just became Xbox, right? Because it's the only option you have to play the way they want to play. Korea is another great example. Culturally in Korea, it is much more likely that people are going to own PCs because a PC is considered a multi-tool, right? It provides multiple functions for the family. So if we're living in this very small apartment in Seoul, South Korea, I have room for a PC, so I'm going to put a PC in here. Those internet cafes are very popular over there because the PC can do so many things and run so many things. You could pay money to come in and check Facebook or come in and play, a game of Warzone. Like, whatever you want to play, you can play. And consoles are a hard sell for them because they're like, why would I buy a box that only does one thing when I can buy this computer for about the same price? And when you start to look at how much consoles cost overseas, right? I can buy this computer for about the same price and it's going to play games and do whatever else I want to, right? So Microsoft is targeting that type of approach. And again, I'm going back to this term of accessibility, right? They're making gaming accessible to those in South Africa who don't have the ability to have internet where they live that provides the experience that a console would want, right? The folks in Korea who do not have the space or honestly, the cultural desire to own a box that only does one thing when they could also get this other box that does many things, right? And that is where, when we look at who's winning, it's easy to say Sony's winning right now because, oh man, they got Final Fantasy. Oh man, they got Demon Souls. Oh man, they got Spider-Man. But what happens when there are more people playing? I will tell you right now, Cameron, you think Last of Us Part 2 is game of the year, right? Or one of the best games of the year, right? Probably one of the best games of the generation.
Yep. Okay. Yes.
Yep. So, hard facts. More people are playing Sea of Thieves right now than Last of Us Part 2. I promise you that.
Oh, yeah. Actively. Oh, yeah. 100%.
So,
hands down.
I mean, Last of Us Part 2 is a failure? Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. But Microsoft's goal is to keep engagement up, is to allow games to grow and evolve over time. Sony wants to sell you a premium quality experience that you enjoy and then move on and come back next month for our next premium quality experience that we want you to. Like, two totally different mindsets. And this generation is where we're really going to see that. We're going to see who, quote unquote, wins from it, right? I think that Microsoft's going to release a new console in the next 2 years. I think that as soon as you think about, new phones come out every year. I don't think new consoles are going to come out every year, but I think that Microsoft will release a new series console in 2 years that will be even more powerful. Now you're in this situation where, oh wow, now Call of Duty runs at 4K 60 frames per second on this new box. PlayStation's still kind of held back because it's a 2 year, it's hardware 2 years from now is going to kick hardware from now's butt, right? Yeah. Like, look at the 3080. Yes. Like, there's no way the 2080 could be beat. It's going to cost $5,000 to get that card. No, it's actually way more powerful than the 2080 at half the price, right? That's just the way computers work. And so,
yep,
that is such, like, there's so many factors, even down to the size of this thing. Like, I can see people buying the Series S just on the size alone. I have a friend of mine who loves PlayStation. He loves Xbox also. He's a multi-platform gamer. But he said, I'm probably just going to get a Series S so I can throw it in my backpack and take it with me. That's a sell that PlayStation cannot make. They cannot make that sell because the thing is 16 fucking inches long no matter which way you go.
Yeah! Go big your home! Woo!
Exactly. It is the Ford F-150 of gaming, right?
It is.
The Ford F-150 is the most popular truck in the world, or in the United States, because it's the... Sorry,
No, you're fine. It's funny enough, when you walk into somebody's room, they have an Apple device because it is prominently shown somewhere. You're like, ooh, that's an Apple device. As opposed to, oh, okay, PC. When you walk into somebody's home, you will know that they have a PlayStation 5. I tell you what. You will know.
Because it's going to have the flaming eye in between the top, right? And it's just going to be like... Yeah. What I'm trying to say here is I think today, Cameron, is the day I want to mark September 17th, 2020,
Okay.
as the day where we really started to see not just the theoretical divergence of gaming, but the actual divergence of gaming. I think, this episode could have gone very differently. We could have been like, well, who do you think did better this month? Sony did. That's not a question. Like, Microsoft delayed their only video game out into infinity, and it's probably because the game is bad, and so someone's got to fix it. Like, of course Sony won. They got Final Fantasy back exclusively, right? That's what I'm saying here, is that what our definition of one is going to change based on who you talk to. There are people who love Apple. You and I, huge fans of Apple.
Yep.
We are into it. My girlfriend's dad hates them, right? For no reason other than they're Apple, right? And that's how this console war bullshit gets started, right? There's people who, and I'm guilty of it, I really loved Xbox, and I looked back, I took a moment, and I looked back at this generation, I was like, you know what, dude? Actually, Bloodborne was pretty dope. Maybe I need to stop shitting on Sony so hard, right? And I think that's just part of growing up, that's part of being mature, but like, you get to this point where you start to look back and you're like, well, just because I really like Bloodborne doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy playing Sea of Thieves through all the updates that they did, right? It's just two different flavors. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have the access to both of those. But Cameron, if I was in a rough situation, if I had lost my job and didn't have any way to support myself, I would be sitting here right now and I would have to be making a decision between should I get a PlayStation or should I get an Xbox? And if I was really strapped for cash, I'm going Xbox.
Yeah,
because it's
Xbox Series S with Game Pass. Bam.
$70 for one video game, and like, some of those games may only be 8 to 10 hours when I can come over here and I can get basically unlimited games. Now, will I get them day one? No, but eventually I'll get to play Red Dead. Eventually I'll get to play. I'll get some games new, like Undermine came out, launched into Game Pass. That's awesome. Some games I'd, have to wait a little bit to play, but I paid $15. You paid $70, right?
But like, if you're low on money, you're busting your butt trying to get some more money. So
one of the reasons I love Xbox, and I've seen it. They've really pushed it since they released the adaptive controller, but they are making a platform that every human on the planet Earth can use to play video games, right? Mm-hmm. Sony is making a platform that tells the best stories and has the best experiences on planet Earth. However, you can't do that without omitting some people, right? Can't afford the box? Sorry. Wait a couple years, maybe you can afford it then, or in their infamous get a second job.
You're oh God, please don't.
Yeah, we're not going to cite that, but
like you have to. I think the big one is like you have to tell people to wait, and I think one of the big problems is that a lot of people don't want to wait. FOMO, they want it now. Yeah, they want it now, and like if you want it now, you want an Android phone, take it out, download the Game Pass app. Surprise, you got xCloud, you're ready to go. 150 games right there, $15 a month. You don't even have to next gen, next schmin. Like you're already in next gen, right? Like Xbox is creating it's a paradigm shift, and it's the same paradigm shift that movies and television has gone through. There are huge numbers of people who don't have cable anymore because they were tired of paying high prices for content that they thought was not of great quality, right? Well, they weren't watching it. You're paying $100 and you're not home half the time, and you miss your favorite show. And
so you look at, Microsoft made a console that competed with Sony for years, and they competed really well. And in fact, one generation they pretty much were eye to eye. They stumbled at the beginning of this current generation. And they had to. When you stumble, you can do one of three things. You can either pedal the metal, Karate Kid it, and try and catch back up and surpass them. Very unlikely. Very unlikely. Tell me companies that have made huge mistakes that recover from it.
It's a very short list.
Very short list, and usually it takes decades. Apple's the only one I can think of off the top of my head that actually came out of near bankruptcy and was able to reinvent themselves. And the only reason they did it, Cameron, do you know the only reason they did it was because they were able to find a new type of product that people would want that would alienate the product they couldn't win, right? They couldn't take over the PC as the most dominant computer platform. So they said, we're going to make a device that makes people want to leave their PCs at home and carry with them a new device that is going to give them the things they love about their PC, the internet access, the ability to communicate with people, and we're going to put it in their pocket. So they took people away from the PC and put them on the phone. And now I would say that PCs have changed what they are all about, right? They are workstations, they are business stations, and they're gaming stations. But very rarely are people spending more time on their computer than they are their phone. Microsoft's doing that. They said, you know what? We got our butts kicked in this last generation, and it's very unlikely that we're going to be able to catch up because, let's be real, we're never going to win in Japan. And if we can't win in Japan, we can't get developers to make for us. If we can't get those developers to make for us, there's always going to be a persona to kick our ass, right? Like, that's the reality. So they said, what if we don't do that? What if we make a platform so accessible that Cactus Jack 698 gives us a follow?
Woo!
Then they would be considered successful, right? No, thank you for the follow, Cactus Jack. But what I'm saying is that they're creating a platform where they could walk in and they'd be like, hey, man, remember all the copies of Persona 5 that you sold to PlayStation, and now the sales of that have kind of teetered out? Well, dude, we got 1.5 billion people over here with Android phones that are running this thing. They'd love to play your game. So let us cut you a check, and you put Persona 5, and this is a abstract example, right? But it's much more likely that Capcom would do this, right? Like Resident Evil 7 just came to Game Pass, right? Surprise, Resident Evil 8's right around the corner. So it makes sense for them. They want to push Resident Evil. They want you to get excited for Resident Evil because Village is about to come out. They know
Robbie Wasabi, thank you for the follow. Thank you very much.
Follow us on Twitch. Let me loop into my rant, dude. I've got it. Thank you, Robbie Wasabi. Also, great name. A+, buddy. I love that name. So that's what I'm trying to say is I really just think that Microsoft is trying to forge a new path for gaming. And dude, I want to tell you, man, this whole week has just been exhausting. And like last time, there was a couple episodes ago, I was like drinking, like I had Mike's Hards out here drinking them, dude. Like I was spent. It was after all the Halo delay stuff, right? But like watching awesome people get roasted on Twitter because they're talking about Sony or Microsoft in a certain way. Like, just, I'm tired of this, right? Like, and so I'm ready for us to move.
Tired.
I'm like, and you don't see people being like, oh, well, Netflix is stupid because they don't, they don't win Emmys or whatever, or pick what, they don't have theaters, so they're not real movies. And I'm like, okay, well, 20 times the number of people watched, that shitty Adam Sandler movie on Netflix than watched Tenet in theaters because theaters are fucking closed. It's that, like, yeah, I'm not saying that, like, Adam Sandler film number 472 is better than Tenet, but people were just like, it fits my life better, right? Yep. Where I am in my life right now, this is more accessible. And that's what Microsoft's trying to do, is they're trying to make something so accessible that you'll choose it maybe over Sony, maybe over Netflix, maybe over going to the park. They are wanting to make a thing that look, you don't believe me? Look at what Fortnite did to children's entertainment. There were huge reductions in television advertising for kids. There were huge reductions in the sale of certain types of games, because you think about a game like, I'm not going to use a Nintendo game, but think about a game like Sackboy, right? Sackboy Adventures is coming out. Do you think that game is, like, if that game had come out the same, that March 2017 when Fortnite blew up or whenever it was, do you think that game would have done really well? No, because kids are not going to go out and buy a $70 game. And I'm talking about young kids, right? They're not going to go out and buy like a $70, little Mario clone when they could come over here and play Fortnite with their friends, right? So if you don't think that changing the way you do business will erode other businesses. Fortnite is the example. Fortnite changed a lot of things about.
Yeah, I think Fortnite pushed a lot of
Kids.
people towards streaming and watching streams on places like Twitch and YouTube. You know, kids before, they're like, "Hey, what Darkwing Duck Tailspin cartoons coming on this weekend?" Now it's like, dude, I just saw Ninja do this 360 no scope kill on this one guy and win the Fortnite tournament. I don't know. I'm talking on my ass, but like, I am 100% with you. Like, it's that divergent that I really think we've talked about the entire time we've been doing console wars, like, of where it's been very clear, and it's gotten clearer and clearer that Microsoft wants to go. They don't want us. They're seeing that they're going to have trouble if they keep down the path. So they decided to be bold and say, let's take a left turn. Let's go down this other route. Let's see if we can change how people view gaming as a whole. And that you don't have to stick with the modus operandi of, you know, announce a console at E3 and then tell you the price and the specs, and then for the next 6 months get everybody hyped for it. Like, let's change our communication strategy. Let's change how we release the consoles. Let's change our strategy of how we want people to engage with our community now, and focus more on a service as a platform instead of the console as the platform there. And I'm 100% with you on that. Thumbs up.
Now I want to jump in real quick and answer some questions from chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because while I was ranting, I think there was a good conversation happening over here. So looks like
Who we getting? Barutu in chat has one that says, I think what Xbox is doing is great for consumers, but how long is Microsoft's heads willing to lose money on this experiment before they cancel the entire Xbox division? Cough, Mixer, cough. If you don't mind, Seth, I'll speak to this a minute. I dropped something. Oh, I see it there. I don't think if that is one question I do have about Game Pass, and it always is something I wonder about in the back of my mind is, are the developers that are making the games that they're putting on Game Pass, are they seeing with a return to investments that we have heard and talked about? Yes, I know, like, a lot of indie developers have come out and said a lot of big things about it, but what about, you know, especially the Xbox game studios? Although they're under Microsoft's banner, so it may not matter to them in the long run. Microsoft just keeps pumping in money there. But, you know, some of these bigger studios, are they making money off of Game Pass? Or how much? That being said, I don't think if they were bleeding money trying to get this experiment to work, I do not think they would be pushing Xbox nearly as hard as they currently are right now. They somehow, and it's probably because, again, I do not have a business degree, they are making money off of Game Pass, however that is, and they are, you know, and maybe it's not about money. Maybe it's purely about driving engagement, because that is the indirect route to money. The fact that if they can get more people on Game Pass, they can get more people engaged, which in turn will encourage people to spend more money. I think from a subscription-based model, we've seen it all the time. You may think that if you sign up for a subscription, I don't spend that much money on it anymore. But you're giving them a recurring payment each month, and then if stuff pops up on sale, you're like, ooh, let me grab that. Ooh, let me grab that. Already, you know, I have it for free on Game Pass, even though it's technically not for free. I have it for free. Let me go ahead and pay that extra money. Or, man, I really love this game. I don't want it to go away. Let me go ahead and save 10% and pay for the game now. And so now Microsoft or that developer has made whatever money they're making from having you on Game Pass, plus when it goes off, you buy that game in and of itself. So I don't think, again, I don't necessarily think this is an experiment per se. If they were having trouble with this path, they would have stopped pushing Game Pass hard long ago.
Yeah.
Cactus Jack in chat says, "I like the way you stroke your beard."
My thinking and plotting habit.
I wish you would have like a one of the long like a Gandalf pipes. Like,
Oh yeah,
that'd be dope. Dope.
So
no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So we've been jumping in. We've talked a lot tonight about value. We've talked a lot about games. As we're kind of getting to the back end of this conversation, I want to talk a little bit about this particular setup we find ourselves in as we're leading into the next generation. Sony has, just had a really interesting press event, and we're going to talk about this extensively on Sunday night's episode of the Rocket Punch show. So tune in live Sunday night to hear our thoughts on that. But one of the things that we learned from this is that pre-orders are going live the day after that. But we saw it kind of fall to pieces really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft, on the other hand, took this approach of we're going to set a time and a date that pre-orders are going live. And we have yet to see if that is actually going to work, because that's about 5 days from now, right? Is Amazon going to pull the trigger early? Is Walmart going to pull? Actually, it's more likely Walmart will pull the trigger early or something like that.
Walmart Canada.
How do you feel so far? Let me just say that this is a small question, but then it gets to this bigger question of how do you feel about the attitudes that both Sony and Microsoft have toward their customers right now in regards to communicate? Let me take a moment to kind of vent some of my frustration. I've talked in the past. I've said some stuff like I do think that Sony is scared of innovation in some areas. I think that they're really excited to innovate in areas where they can sell you hardware, like VR. Yeah. They're not really interested in selling or in innovating in areas like services, which is why we see that. So you kind of see like people like me, like I get a little frustrated with the fact that I have to pay for cloud saves on PlayStation, or the fact that certain features are locked behind certain paywalls and things like that. So
yeah,
where I kind of wonder is when I looked at this event recently, there was a lot of, I'm going to call it smoke and mirrors around what's exclusive and what's not, right? And when I say exclusive, I mean not only just to Sony platforms, but also to like PS5 versus PS4. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, personally. I think I'm getting this vibe. I'm getting a vibe from Sony that I got from 2017 to 2016 Xbox. That was like, you remember the Rise of the Tomb Raider debacle? Where they were like, it's exclusive to Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just a year. And they kind of got a lot of hate for that. And I kind of see some of the same stuff happening from Sony, and I'm not going to comment on whether or not Sony's getting the same amount of hate, because at the end of the day, nobody should be getting hate for this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So the thing that I'm kind of curious about when it comes to your thoughts, so like, do you think that Sony is being real cool right now, or are they being a little shady? And same question for Microsoft. Do you think that Microsoft is being really cool? I think it's easier to say Microsoft's being really cool right now because they're being like so humble and like putting it out there and, responding to leaks with memes and stuff like that. But Sony in particular, I'm interested in your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I agree on the Xbox point. I think they're being very humble, and I think it's because they're the underdog going into this generation. 2013 Xbox One. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I really need to say. Rutu says in chat, I think the timed exclusives have been around long enough. People understand to read the fine print. Sony, and I think probably the big thing we're talking about as far as like communication and stuff, especially after this event, I think that Sony could have done a much better job of discussing and talking in their presentation, and we talked about this right before the show, like that they need to like boom, we got the price, boom, we got the date, that was the main thing that people wanted. But the other part of that was like, when can we pre-order? And I think part of that is because Microsoft set that up so beautifully, even though technically they did get leaked and they had to do it early. But they still so beautifully came out and said, here's the tweet, here's all the information, here's when you can pre-order, get excited. And I think that having it written in text and in tweets and stuff helped with that message, because you can't fuck up words for the most part. But like, when I think part of Sony's thing is that they had this at the end of this presentation, but their mentality was that we want to get the presentation was the hype. That was the showcase. That's where we wanted you to get Final Fantasy 16, Hogwarts Legacy, Call of Duty Black Ops. Like, get fucking hyped, get excited. $3.99, $4.99, available November 12th. Boom! Oh, guess what? Here's God of War Ragnarok. Ba ba bam. I think it was very much, that presentation was like an E3 presentation. They could have, like, it would have been a lot shorter, but they could have carbon copied and pulled that and put that on E3 2020 press conference, whatever. That being said, still the point, and I'm right there, like, the whole debacle of, like, I think it was hard. I understand it, but I still think it was hard, and it wasn't the best strategy to say, now all of a sudden they want you to go to the PlayStation blog and learn more about these games. They want you to go follow them on Twitter so that you can find out these tweets and stuff and figure out, when are pre-orders going live, because we didn't find out, and we found it in a tweet that PlayStation put on the third tweet down in a thread. As opposed to having, like I told you, it could have easily just as been, Jim Ryan could have come out and said, pre-orders are going to start on September 17th, tomorrow, early at select retailers. So get excited. We'll see you guys tomorrow. We hope. Wish you the best. And I think that
people. Oh, sorry.
Oh, and I think that it's. I think the part of that plays on a little bit on your console preference and the whole console war mentality, because I think that people just, that's part of, like, I like this platform because of what they're doing here, or I like this platform because of not what they're doing here. And like I said before, I do think the primary reason for the whole clusterfuck that was the PS5 pre-orders yesterday was on the onus of the retailers, because I remember Jeff Keighley's tweet that was like, PlayStation is saying that pre-orders are going to go live as early as tomorrow, and then after that, but I'm hearing some select retailers are just going to go ahead and start it now. And you want to tell them to stop, wait, and hold back, but what the hell are you who's going to stop Walmart Canada from doing whatever the fuck they want? I don't know. Yeah. But that being said, there's still some onus on Sony to do a better job of communicating to these people a lot of the main facts that should have been communicated at the end of the presentation. Yes, I know, like, I get the point that you don't want all these details. People don't want and or are not going to pay attention to in a presentation. If you're getting people hyped for Spider-Man Miles Morales, and you put on their PS5, then all of a sudden it also says at the bottom, also on PS4, and then it rolls through. You're like, whoa, wait a second, what's going on here? Or even if you start fluffing it up and you start adding in this text like, hey, we're going to be on PS5, we're also going to be on PS4. Here's the reason why. Immediately people are like, oh, that's crap. Stop talking. I want to see more games. And it's just, again, the gamer mentality that I think to some extent we've got to break. But
yeah, I agree. That was one thing I was going to talk about was I think Sony is so scared to put someone on stage to talk about something because it worked so well for them to do what they're doing now. It worked so well through last generation. They just show up and they show, like, they love to do the cinematic down to gameplay, right? Like, they love doing that.
And part of that reason is on us as gamers, because we've not only told Sony, but also Microsoft, and like throughout the last 7 years, we don't want presentations like that. We don't want to see charts. We don't want to see people talking. Show us the games. And so that is why all for the most part, all they did was show you the games. We talked about you can't have it to some extent. You can't have it both ways because we knew also going into this presentation, and we can't have it both ways for us as gamers and for the Sony as well. Like we knew going into this showcase, we're going to get details. We haven't gotten hard facts and details on the PlayStation 5's price and date. We knew we were going to get those. What was the problem going to be that at the end of the presentation saying, boom, here's the price, boom, here's the release date, and go through a quick few minutes description of letting people know, like, hey, we're so excited to let you know that the PlayStation 5 is going to be available at $4.99 and $3.99 for the digital version at select, at our major retailers across the U.S. and these regions here. It's going to be available on November 12th, and then the rest of the world on November 19th. Pre-orders are going to start tomorrow morning, so get excited. We can't wait to invite you guys to the PlayStation 5 family. Boom, done. Look, I just did it in like 30 seconds.
Yep.
Like, and it's just, again, but that being said, you look over at Microsoft, you look at how much they've learned from this generation, and kind of having to make that hard pivot on what they're going to do with the Xbox brand, and coming out so smooth. I think with the exception of last month that we talked about on Console Wars, every month it has been silky smooth as butter. Like, their communication has been very clear, and a part of that reason is because they're not doing videos. It's a big old blog post that you have to read, and when you have to read, you have to understand stuff. So, because if people try and you can't misconstrue words, as opposed to if somebody says something real quick and you're like, wait, what did you say?
Yeah.
So, I digress. You're going to continue. Pick us up.
Yeah, no, and it was just one of those things where I was watching it, and I got this vibe of like, man, I feel like there's some stuff being hidden from me, right? There's something not honest going on here about terminology like, console launch exclusive. It's the same thing that happened with Tomb Raider. And people want to know, what does that mean? Does that mean that it's not coming, period, or that it's, not coming for another month? And I understand that that's like a necessary part of, Deathloop's a great example. Like, Deathloop is a game I love. And one of the big reasons I'm buying a PlayStation 5 at the start is to play Deathloop. But I really don't want to see situations where, like, for example,
well, while you're thinking about that, Deathloop, we didn't even know until like the second time that game was shown that game was even an exclusive for PlayStation 5. And I wouldn't blame anybody if they watched the presentation last night and saw console exclusive to be like, wait, what? Deathloop? I've seen like 3 or 4 times now. Was an exclusive? When did that happen? It's been like that the whole time. And I don't blame you if you got confused about that, but I agree.
Yeah, so, and I know Rutu in chat is talking about something very... Rutu, I want to go to the quantum universe where Sony went first. I really do. I want to go to the quantum universe where Sony's stuff leaked. Because also I think Sony would be much worse at handling a leak than Microsoft would. I think they would panic a lot more than Microsoft did.
I think they wouldn't have... It would have leaked and they wouldn't have said anything until the next week, and it would have been like a week or so of like, well, it's been leaked. Why don't you just go ahead and confirm it?
Yeah. And so that's where, like, if the PlayStation had leaked last week at, $5.99, $4.99 respectively, right? And then they ended up coming out and being like, yep, that's the price, $5.99, $4.99. And then Microsoft swings in with the pillowcase full of soap and goes, $4.99 Series X, $2.99 Series S. Could you imagine we would be looking at a situation similar to, not quite the same, because like Sony wouldn't have done anything wrong, right? But you'd be looking at a pricing situation where like Sony now has to react. And Rutu, you kind of hinted, I do think Sony reacted to the Series S price. I think they reacted to the Series X price in a way that, there was a part of me that thought this was going to be $550, $499 for those 2 boxes. But when they saw how low the Series S was, and they saw that the Series X was at $499, they felt they could comfortably compete in that lower market. But
Mhm.
I know the conversation's coming up in chat now also about Japan. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I think what Microsoft's doing is paving the way for them to talk to people in Japan a lot easier. Like, I think it's a huge deal that a Yakuza game is coming to Xbox first. That's a very Japanese franchise, and it's
Well, not even that. I don't want to jump too far in the weeds on this, but like
yeah,
Xbox Game Pass on mobile devices, Japan is known for their mobile devices. The Nintendo mobile devices, RIP 3DS, the Vita, probably not. But like mobile phones and Xbox Game Pass could be the unsung hero that gets Xbox into the face of Japanese gamers.
yeah. Because I mean, Japanese gamers are gonna play Yakuza. Like, Yakuza Like a Dragon, very popular game in Japan. And if they can pull out their phone and subscribe to Game Pass and play that game right there, yes, that is a way.
It's probably not another coincidence either that Dragon Quest XI Definitive Edition is also coming to Game Pass in December. So,
which is really, really cool. I was playing Dragon Quest on the way back home today on the Switch, and I was like, "This game is really cool."
I want to play it. I'm so excited to get a chance to play it. So.
I got 2 peps in a row that basically I was like, "There's no way I should be beating this boss," but I'm doing it because I got the exact perfect pet power right at the right time. You're in for a treat. We're not here to talk about pet powers, though. We're here to talk about console wars. So I know traditionally toward the end we start to talk about who won. Sony.
Well, not even that.
This month.
I've got one more question. I know we're running long.
One more?
I got one more point, and then we'll start doing wrap up because I've actually instead of talking about who won, I've got some interesting questions to ask, especially for this episode.
Yeah, because who won was stupid.
Yeah.
For this one.
The question I have, and it's something we actually haven't talked about. I think it's pertinent here to maybe talk about it a little bit because it's very interesting. The one part about Sony's press conference, there were a few surprises in there. One that I think caught everybody off guard that nobody even really knew about was the PlayStation Plus collection.
Oh, yeah.
Which we haven't talked about, which for people who, if you don't know, the PlayStation Plus collection is basically a collection of, for the most part, PlayStation exclusives from the PS4 generation that you will be able to play and download day and date. If you are a PlayStation Plus subscriber, you have full access to those games. Do you know, Seth? I think you're pulling it up. You said you were.
Yep.
What are the list of those games? Because there's a bunch.
So we got God of War, Last of Us Remastered, Uncharted 4: A Thief's End, Battlefield 1, Monster Hunter World, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy 15, The Last Guardian, Ratchet and Clank, the 2016 remake, Infamous Second Son, Days Gone, Bloodborne, Detroit Become Human, Batman Arkham Knight, Mortal Kombat 10, Persona 5, Until Dawn, and Resident Evil Biohazard, which is Resident Evil 7.
Yeah. Ooh, and this is good. Jumpman in chat says, cool, because I do not own a PS4, so all of that is new to me. And Rutu says that's a big deal. I want to ask you, Seth, especially as an Xbox fan, an Xbox gamer, what do you think about this PlayStation Plus collection? Do you think that it is or can be an answer, or should it be an answer to Xbox Game Pass? And what do you think this value could mean for people getting a PlayStation 5 this holiday?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that out of the gate, this is an awesome value. They've been they're kind of being shady on this. They've been very shady on whether or not this is going to affect the price of PlayStation Plus. I know Microsoft is moving to make their subscription option, which is Game Pass Ultimate is really what they're pushing, to be $15 a month, and they are not selling that in a year bundle. Like if you saw they did away with the gold bundle for a year, you can still buy. There's billions of cards out there, so there will be stock for several years. But as far as official support, you can no longer buy a year of of gold for $60.
And I'll make sure at least from what I'm seeing right now, They didn't directly say it on there, but they've just said that it is part of your PlayStation Plus subscription. There has been no mention of it increasing, so I don't.
I'm going to assume it's not.
Yeah,
I'm going to assume it's not increasing. I think this is a fantastic deal for that. Do I think this competes with Game Pass? Yeah, and that there are games to play here. But one of the things about Game Pass that makes it so compelling is that they are continuously adding new stuff. And every month there are people saying, I can't believe that's on Game Pass. When they added Devil May Cry 5, I can't believe that's on Game Pass. When they added Grand Theft Auto 5, I can't believe that's on Game Pass, right? Like, there are these games. Red Dead is currently on there, right? It's insane the awesome games they get on Game Pass. EA Play coming to Game Pass. All those EA games coming to Game Pass. Like, the value is enormous. Now, when I look at these games, these are some heavy hitters. Now, I will say just about everything that is not a first-party Sony game that's on the service is also on Game Pass. So just know that, like...
Monster Hunter World, Fallout 4, Final Fantasy 15, all on Game Pass. Batman Arkham Knight. Is it on there? Okay, I didn't know about that one.
It is. Arkham Knight is on Game Pass. So that is, from the perspective of, is it good at competing? Yes. Now, after 6 months, this list will be pretty well dried up, right? Because most people that are going to want to play these are going to play what they want to play, and then they're going to...
Do you think they will continue to add games to this? Or is this something where it's like, this is it, and then, it'll just hang around for people who haven't played those games?
So let me explain what I don't think they're going to be adding new things to this. What I think this is designed for is this, Cameron.
Okay.
So, my name is Seth Turner. I have a PlayStation 4 currently. I traded it in. I got $275, so I think I made a steal, because I think PlayStation 4s are probably about to dive bomb in value. But I digress. I own physical copies, because remember, PlayStation 4 was all about them physical copies, right? Of God of War, Last of Us, that's digital. Uncharted. I own a physical of Monster Hunter World. Okay. I own physical of... Now, some of these I don't own, like, period. Bloodborne. Yep. I own a physical of Persona 5. So, that right there is going to be like, man, I really don't want to get that digital PlayStation 5 because I've got these games I may want to go back and play, and I need the disc drive to do that. This answers that. So, I think this is more of allowing people to feel confident moving into the next generation digital only, because they have access to the games. These are the games you would want to go back and play, right? Like, these are the games that you would want to go back and play. And honestly, these are the games that Sony wants you to be playing. They want you to play God of War, because guess what? God of War 2 is coming, or God of War Ragnarok is coming. They want you to play Final Fantasy 15, because guess what? Final Fantasy 16 is coming. Like, they want you to go back and play these games. Ratchet and Clank. I say Bloodborne. Bloodborne's kind of the same as Demon Souls. There's a crossover there. But like, yeah, it makes sense. It's the same reason that they're putting Horizon on PC. They want you to play Horizon so that you'll come buy Horizon 2 on PlayStation 5. Like, it's the same thought process. But I really think this is more like, if in my situation, I did not have to get a disc PlayStation 5 because these are all the games that I would want to play. The only one that's missing from this list is Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is something you're going to be able to buy again with Miles Morales Deluxe Edition, right? So that is, I think this is doing exactly what they want it to do, and that is to help people feel comfortable moving into next generation. And honestly, this is a huge value add from day one. I think this does a big job. You remember I was telling you about, like, the risk of buying a PlayStation 5 and without dropping another $70, you're not really going to have anything to play. That's not really the case. Like, you have all these games you can play, just like Microsoft's touting all the games you're going to be able to play on day one with Game Pass, right? So this is a good counter for that. But if they don't add to this, I'm just trying to think, like, what would you add to this?
Horizon isn't on this?
Yeah, Horizon is not on here, and that is probably...
I don't know if they would...
Can I give you a hot take? Can I give you a hot take? I think they're going to do a definitive edition of Horizon before the next one comes out, or do what they're doing with Miles Morales and make a deluxe edition that comes with a...
They already have that. There's the Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition that has...
Well, there's a Complete Edition, but, like, I'm talking about for PlayStation 5. Because, like, You notice Spider-Man's
like,
not on this list because they're going to sell you Spider-Man in that deluxe edition.
You're talking about like a remaster.
Yeah, I say,
Something...
I mean, what can you really remaster on that game? But like, we'll say next-gen optimizations, right? Like doing the little bit of work to make loading times better and textures pop in less fast. I think they're going to do that. I think it would make a lot of sense to have a complete edition that they sell for $70 it would honestly be 90 if they follow the pricing structure, but like a deluxe edition Horizon Forbidden West that comes with Horizon Zero Dawn. I know enough about PlayStation gamers to tell you that PlayStation gamers would probably buy that. They would eat that up for $90.
I'll answer a question real quick, and then I'll give my thoughts on this.
Yeah.
Rurutu in chat asks, will there be a USB 3 hard drive expandability, or are you forced to buy their NVMe SSD expansions? Burgundy Musk responds as well, and I believe he's right. From what we know, so the SSDs, both systems, they are custom SSDs. The PlayStation 1's is faster, but they're still custom SSDs. For both systems, if you want to play the next-gen games, you have to get for Xbox, there's a Seagate expandable card that you can buy, a 1 terabyte expandable card slot you can put in the back there, and be able to load next-gen games on that. For PlayStation 5, there is supposed to be an open tray, which will allow you to pick up select third-party NVMe drives that run at the speeds that the internal drive is using. You'll be able to purchase at a later time and slide into that slot and use that there. But those are if you have a next-gen game, so if you download a game digitally on PS5 or Xbox Series X, they have to be on those type of drives. You cannot load those on a hard drive and have them work. They will not work. But you can get an external USB 3 device and load your older PS4 or Xbox One games onto those, and those will work fine.
Yeah, that's a big thing I've seen misinformation going around about it. You can store games on external drives. You just can't play those next-gen games unless they're either on the internal drive or on one of the, cards for Microsoft. Or I think Sony said eventually there's going to be specifically, branded drives that are built for that
they
speed.
They said they're going to have a list when those drives become available and let people know.
Yeah, what that is. So.
But no, my thoughts on this, I agree with you. This is a great value. Is this a competitor to Game Pass? No, I don't think so. This PlayStation Plus collection, for a lot of the reasons you said, Seth, my thoughts, this is specifically aimed at people like Jumpman99, who did not have a PlayStation 4 last generation, missed out on all the talk of all the God of Wars and Horizons and Last of Us that people had last generation, and have decided that they're going to get a PlayStation 5 and they're going to jump into that this generation. This allows them that if they don't want to spend $70 to get a game right out of the bat, they can use their PlayStation Plus subscription and sign up and download these games right from the get-go and play them and experience basically what the hell was everybody talking about? Oh, okay, that's what they were talking about. I think it's a great value. I think this is a great value for those type of people. For other people, if you've had, like me, if you've had PlayStation Plus or if you've been in the PlayStation ecosystem for as long as I have, the only game I have not played on this list is Battlefield 1, The Last Guardian. That's it. And so there is no value to me in this, per se.
Okay, now hold on. I don't think it's fair to say that you've played Bloodborne, because you haven't.
I have fired it up. I have at least an hour's worth of time in that game.
Booted it up.
It's
booted it up.
But at least touched. I say play is like at least touched.
Yeah, I feel you.
But I think that the fact that at least, like you said, Seth, as we know right now, there is no additional cost for this, I think is perfect and it's great. You don't, it wasn't. If it had been like, here's PlayStation Plus collection with this list, and it's $5 a month more for PlayStation Plus, boo.
Now I will tell you, if you are a PlayStation Now subscriber, you get fucked. Like, thanks for the $10 a month, I guess. Like,
and I was gonna say, like, I honestly think what I want and what I wish, and I think what a lot of people want as well, is I think the competitor to Game Pass on Sony's side is to combine PlayStation Now into PlayStation Plus, or at least give some type of a damn about PlayStation Plus to promote it more. Like it's PlayStation Plus, and I've tried it, I've played it, I want to play more of it. It's a cool service, especially now that with like those PS4 games, some of those games you can download, not all of them, but you can download some of those, and then you can stream the PS3, PS2 games that are available. And they work very well, and you can play those games on your PC, which I've done before. I've secretly been wanting to like do a stream of like a PlayStation game and like play it, and then at the end tell people, oh yeah, and I was streaming this entire game on PlayStation Now. Like, shocker. But that was like, I would have loved to have seen that, but I think this is a great little thing for people new to the PlayStation family.
I want to pitch something real quick that I think would be an exceptional way to get Game Pass, quote unquote, started on PlayStation. What if, think of every game that has ever been on PlayStation Plus as a free game.
Okay.
Right? Take some of those games that you'd be able to get. So I've just pulled up a list here for myself, and I'm going to just look through a couple of them here. So Injustice was a PS4 one. Infamous First Light, The Swapper, Transistor, Rogue Legacy, Oddworld New and Tasty. These are games that have been PlayStation Plus games, right? I think I'm currently in 2015. What if you put those games in PlayStation Now, right? What if you could play, I'm thinking, look at what Fall Guys did, right? Like, imagine if Fall Guys was in PlayStation Now. Like, basically all these games that are in PlayStation Plus, and they give them away for a month, and then you cannot get them for free anymore. What if they were in a subscription service and you kept those games for, at least a year? That's kind of what Microsoft does with that. Limbo was in here. And so imagine being able to pick up a PlayStation 5 day one and go back and play some of these games. That's what people are going to do. Dude, I'm telling you, there's going to be a ton of people playing Destiny on Xbox when they get a Series X. I'm telling you, people are going to be picking that up to play Destiny at 60 frames per second. And there are some people that just want to go back and experience some of that stuff.
I mean, you're right. Like, Fruliger in chat says, I'm more excited about the PS Plus collection than anything. Haven't played Final Fantasy 15 or Monster Hunter yet.
Yeah, exactly. Monster Hunter, that's a 150-hour RPG if you want it to be. Like, that's a huge amount of value that you'll get from that. And it's still getting updates today. Final Fantasy 10, haven't played Final Fantasy. I think you mean 15.
He means 15.
Like, that's 15. That is a phenomenal RPG. Falls apart in one chapter, but whatever, dude, it's good up till then. And I think they fixed it since then, so it's even better. So when you ask, is this a competitor to Game Pass? No, because Game Pass has a proven track record of value addition. I think this is a great way to build a bridge between PS4 and PS5 and get people comfortable moving forward without feeling like they're leaving their favorite games behind.
Good call. Agreed. Okay, I'm out of questions. It's almost 3 hours.
It's almost 3 hours, man. I'm almost out of my throat. So I do want us to do. We've skipped this segment the past couple times. Can we do Power Your Dreams?
Yes, let's do Power Your Dreams, and I'll have one more question after that. Kind of wrap us up.
Okay, cool.
So, Power Your Dreams is our segment, guys, here on Console Wars, where we basically ask ourselves, what are some of the things we hope to see Microsoft and Sony do for their systems and brands in the future? Each, Seth and myself, will pick one thing for Microsoft and for Sony in respect to the PlayStation and Xbox. So, you wanted to do this, Seth. I'm going to put you on the spot. I need time to think.
So,
Go ahead.
Because I'm in this PlayStation zone now, I'm in this zone for the next foreseeable future. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to download the PlayStation app and try and get everything back up. Because you remember I told you I couldn't see you online, right? That was because I just downloaded the PlayStation app.
Yes.
And you were able to discover you were invisible or whatever. And so I was going through this app. And I don't think this is a bad app per se. But I think there's a lot of opportunity, and this is going to once again go into my Sony services thing. One thing that I think Xbox is doing really well, and I think Sony does it really well in certain areas, is they allowing you to manage your console without having to be at the console. And I think Sony does this with rest mode, like the ability for you to choose between putting your console in rest mode or powering it off every time you turn it off. Because on Xbox, it's a toggle in settings, right? But with Sony, when you power your console off, you have the option. And so if you know, oh man, I got a bunch of games that need updating, or oh man, the new Call of Duty Warzone patch comes out tonight, I want to make sure that's downloaded and ready to go. I wish they would bring that same level of control to their mobile app. Because I know Microsoft does it with Game Pass, like on the Game Pass app. Do you use that app, Cameron?
The Game Pass app? Yeah.
Yeah. But you know you can like manage you can uninstall and like it'll even show you non-Game Pass games that you haven't played in a while. And you can be like, oh, I haven't played, Halo Master Chief Collection in a while. I'll uninstall it and install, this new game that I'm wanting to play. Yeah. And you can basically manage your whole console installation right from your phone. So in theory, you're able to make sure when you get home, you're not dealing with updates or waiting for downloads. I didn't really see anything quite like that in the PlayStation app. And also, I was really disappointed when I tapped on the PlayStation Store that it just literally opens a web browser.
Yep, it does.
Inside, and I was kind of like, it's a little lame. I'd like for it to be native.
I will definitely say that you can, from the app, like, it has some of that functionality you're looking for. So you can, I believe I've actually done it more on the PlayStation app than the Xbox Game Pass app. Like, if there's a game that I've downloaded, I can go on here and say, I want to, while I'm at work, I buy this game, put it in my download queue, and I can start downloading it. And because my system is in rest mode, it starts downloading so that when I get home, all I have to do is turn it on. The game is ready to rock and roll, and I hit play.
Can you delete games that way, though?
That's the point. And so that's why I say limited functionality. So you can't do stuff like manage your hard drive space and delete games off your system with the app. I 100% agree that I think the PlayStation app needs to be improved. I think it's 2020, for God's sakes. I'm pretty sure we have enough coders that we can open the store natively and have a very nice user interface within the app instead of sending you to the web interface. But that being said, there is some of that functionality there, but I agree with you that they can do better, and they should do better, and I'm surprised they haven't done it yet.
Rutu, I want to touch on one thing Rutu said real quick. Microsoft buys Sega to tap into the Asian market. That is something that has been I think, a fever dream of a lot of gamers recently. The problem, let me explain real quick. If Microsoft were to buy Sega, Sega's reputation would be severely hurt in the Japanese market because it is no longer a fully Japanese company, right? Like, think about it, and America's a little bit different because I do think that Japan's a little bit more nationalistic when it comes to like that. I think Sony wins there so often just because people want to support their own company. Just like I know people who love Xbox because it is an American-owned company, right? And so when you look at, imagine if somebody were to come in and buy a company that is based out of America and they're from overseas. I think if you're a more nationalist American, right? Like someone who likes the made in the USA, which there's a lot of Americans who are like that, right? Like they prefer the thing that's made in America. You're more likely to hurt yourself, the brand. You're actually more likely to hurt the domestic brand by buying it than you would be to just try and do it. It's like you're just spending a lot of money for nothing. So I think that's where the danger with Sega is. Because you're talking about Sega's got a lot of great IP. Like, just imagine what they could do. The problem that is going to run into is that people want to be excited about things that they feel like they have ownership in, and Japan has 2 of the 3 biggest video game hardware manufacturers in the world, and so why would they support the third one when they have 2 really great ones like Nintendo and Sony? That's part of. It's just Microsoft's never going to win that Eastern market like people want them, and honestly they need to, and it sucks, but that's just kind of, I think what they're doing with Game Pass is the best they're going to be able to do. It really is.
So,
Anyways, sorry. So tell me what is your one of your power of your dreams?
for Sony, like, funny enough, we talked about it at the end, so it's a very easy segue into me. Like, I wanna I wanna see them take the plunge. Like, I'm looking here at the PlayStation Now page. I would love to see them put more of a focus on PlayStation Now and add it in as a value add to PlayStation Plus. Like, let me hit the button here. So you look at the PlayStation Now page. It says $9.99 a month if you sign up. So if you sign up for 12 months, that's $60 a year. So that's $5 a month. So if it, I am comfortable saying that even if they told me if you got the PlayStation Plus collection and we're going to add in PlayStation Now, but the cost of PlayStation Plus is going to go up $5 a month, so it's going to be $15 a month. Guess what? It's the same price as Xbox Game Pass. Do we have the full functionality of downloading every game? No. But we can play these old PS3, PS2, and a lot of select PS4 games that we can download as part of that subscription, and it puts it at the same price. I think it gives that is what would give PlayStation some parity and some type of a weapon against Game Pass. But maybe, like, I think Game Pass would still be above them because the pure reason is, again, you're getting new exclusive day and date on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And
when you look at what is on PlayStation Now, it's competitive. It's competitive. You could put it up with Game Pass.
Like the pure fact that there are PlayStation 3 and specifically PlayStation 2 games on there that a lot of people are just, I gotta play PlayStation 2 games. They're gonna jump on that. And I think that is my one thing I would love. I would love for Sony to make that move and say, look, we're just gonna do it. And honestly, I think it just really depends. Like, we don't hear very much numbers on how PlayStation Now was doing. Maybe it's doing well enough for what they expect of it. And they're like, we're totally fine. It's doing what it needs to do. Let it hang over there, and we're good to go. I don't know, but
I do think they've given numbers before.
I don't remember the last time they gave numbers. I think it was like 2 or 3 million. No, 2 or 3 million. Somebody, are you fact checking me?
I'm checking it. Number of subscribers. I remember them touting it's 2.2 million people. And I remember them saying that it was the largest subscription-based service for a video game, implying that they had more subscribers than Microsoft's Game Pass Ultimate. So, yeah, I'm not really sure. PlayStation Plus, yeah, it's tough, but yeah, I mean, I agree. I want them to take the plunge. I want them to jump in there. I just after Jim Ryan saying what he said today, he literally said that today, that quote I read from earlier. I don't foresee them doing anything more than putting old games in it, maybe.
And
they might bundle it.
Maybe it's something, maybe they use the PlayStation Plus collection as that thing where that's where they're putting old games in it too. But, and then I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be brand new games because I understand the talent that their studios have. I would love to have PlayStation Plus and have that, just like Game Pass owners do, have that library where it's like, I haven't played this game in a while. Let me download this again. It's been a really long time and play this again. So
the other one, I'm going to say Microsoft, but this will also be for Sony as well. One thing I would absolutely love, Cameron, would be animated artwork for games on your dashboard. And I'm not talking about like something
cool.
super, but like with SSDs being able to load things so quickly, I don't think it would be, because the number one, remember designer Seth coming out here, number one goal of the dashboard is to not get in the way, right? It's got to be fast and smooth. So I wouldn't want it to necessarily be like every piece of art, but when you have it highlighted, like you can see in my background here, I've got the new Xbox dashboard, but like you can barely see it, but right here to the, other shoulder. Right here to the side of my shoulder is the Forza Horizon 4 artwork. And imagine if, like, when you highlighted it, you had the leaves, like, blowing. And, you got that. I think that would just be such a cool... it's just such a cool addition to the dashboard. And I know Sony hasn't shown their UI yet. So, still in the air that maybe something cool like that will happen. But I was thinking about it when I was looking at this, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool if you had just more motion? They're adding animated wallpapers or backdrops to the Xbox dashboard, which I know Sony has the themes on their side, so they both have those. But like, I would really just love to see, like, imagine if your game art could come to life in a really cool way.
Good point. That would be dope. It would be super awesome. My Microsoft one would be. It's going to happen. And the one I can think about right now is that. And it's funny because I experienced this. I booted up my Xbox One, and it just reminds me again why I just cannot wait for the new Xbox experience with the apps and the speed more than anything. It took like a minute and a half for my Xbox One X to boot from power up with the Xbox One logo to the actual dashboard. Like, I walked around and grabbed a snack before the dashboard came up. And so I really want, and I know I'm going to get it, and I'm excited and I can't wait to see it on the new Xboxes. Like, the response, I think it's one of the reasons why me personally, I've liked Sony and their, like, the rest mode, and the fact when I hit that PlayStation gem, it goes do, and then it has my login, and I hit that, and boom, I'm right in my game. And then I click a game that I was playing before, and boom, the Avengers comes up. I want that speed and functionality, and that's why, like, features like Quick Resume and the new Xbox dashboard are really, still currently a dream because it hasn't been released yet. But when it comes out, that will fulfill a dream that
I'll let you know. I'm testing it right now in the alpha ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's good.
I'm excited. I'm super
excited
for it.
The guide is really neat. It's a new design language. It's real. As a designer myself, I nerded out for like 20 minutes just playing around with it. It's very fast. You'll love it. And that's on a 1S. That's on a 1S. It's going to be even smoother on Series X.
That's a good point. So we're now at the end. 3 hours into the stream, into this podcast. Welcome everyone.
Feeling it, dude. I'm feeling it.
But I think we've had a lot of great conversations. Seth, I told you I wanted this episode to be like when somebody asks me, like, what do you think about the PlayStation 5 and or the Xbox One or the Xbox Series, whatever, I can just say, go listen to Console Wars Episode 7. That's literally
3 hours, right?
3 hours. That's all you need to know. But I want to wrap up the show. I agree with you. I don't want to do like the who won this month. I thought about asking the question like, what console are you planning on getting? I don't even want to do that. The question I want to ask is, I think a much better one, and I think one that revolves around just like our experiences and especially all the conversations we've had, as well as for the people that are listening in. We know these dates. We know these prices. We've got all the information we need as consumers to make informed decisions on next generation of consoles. They're coming out early November, just in time for the holidays. Imagine yourselves, and I want us both to answer this. We're out and about. It's Black Friday. We're looking around. We're at GameStop. We're at Best Buy, wherever. And we have our friends messaging us, or our loved ones, or just people, strangers, that we see them in the game aisle, and we kind of jump in their conversations like, these new consoles. From what we've talked about before, from all the information that we now have in our hands, Seth, what would you tell somebody who's looking into getting a console for the next generation? What advice would you give them to help them make a decision on getting a console?
This person this is a first-time console owner, correct?
Sure, if that's what you want to make it, if you want to make that stipulation, like somebody says, I'm having trouble deciding between these two versions of the PlayStation and these two versions of the Xbox. They're for me, they're for my kid, they're for whatever reason you would think of. Maybe specific scenarios. Like, what advice would you give to help them moving into next gen?
some weird psychology that can go into this. But one of the things that I would probably ask that person is not like, what kinds of games do you like? Because I'm assuming this person may or may not have like games.
Mm-hmm.
But I would ask this person, when you think of winning something, what do you think of? Like, if I were to say you're a winner, what would your thought be? Like, what kind of a winner are you? And the answer to that question would probably tell me something about the type of game that person would like. If somebody answers the question, what kind of a winner are you? Well, they'll be like, well, if I'm winning something, then that means that I'm the best at it. So, I competed with other people and I won. And so I'm the person who won. Then I would probably say that person's a little bit more focused on individual success and achievement. And so they're probably going to like single player games. And so at that point, go with the PlayStation, right? If they're like, well, that probably means that I was on the better team and that we worked hard and, we coordinated better together. At that point, I would say get an Xbox because Game Pass makes co-op gaming like there's no dead lobbies in a Game Pass game, right? Like there's like World War Z is filled with people to play co-op with. So like if they prefer the type of co-op game, then I would say that's the case. But I mean, if I were being real, Cameron, and someone were to ask me like what they like, the question would be like, how much money are you willing to invest into this? And if the answer is less than $15 a month, then they need to be buying an Xbox. Like that's I'm like, it just like any hobby, it's expensive, right?
Yeah.
And if you're not willing to put more than, and honestly, to be fair, it'd be $25 or $30, right? Because that's how much all access would cost. But if they're like, well, you know what, I want the best experience I could get. So like what, money aside, let's say $1,000 or something, what would be the best experience? I'd say PlayStation 5. You're going to get here's the thing. Based on what we have right now, PlayStation will get to play all of the games that you want to play, right? That includes your multi-platforms and your Sony exclusives. Microsoft, you're going to basically get to play really good versions of multi-platforms. But until they start outputting that lineup we want to see, I don't think you're going to get that from Xbox, right? So as far as what is a better bet right now, Sony is. But, huge but, you got to pay to play. Like I said, you're going to be out at least $600 if you want to buy a PlayStation 5 and a PlayStation 5 game, right? Like, now, yeah, you got the PS4 back compat library that you can play with, but like if you want to play Miles Morales or if you want to play Demon Souls or if you want to play any of those launch games, after tax you're going to be out $600. So,
okay,
there you go. Xbox 25, 30. Or sorry, 25, 35. You're out the door. So that would be my biggest question. But if I were to dig deep and kind of find out what kind of games they like, Sony's got plenty of first single-player games. But if someone is like, well, I love playing Warzone, I love playing Fortnite, and I love playing with my friends online, more than likely their friends are going to be playing on a cross-platform game like that. They're going to be playing where they could play on Xbox, right? Like you could play Fortnite or Warzone with your friends on Xbox, and that's honestly the cheaper. It's going to run better. And hot take, that controller's way better for FPS's IMO, but
what? No. Understand.
What about you?
Thinking about it, if someone's having that question, I think the question I would ask them is what, kind of along the same lines you were thinking, like, what do you put more stock into? What do you value more? Do you want something with great value, or do you want something with experiences you're not going to find anywhere else? And I think I and answering that question, that could, of course, get to a much deeper root of the
Well, now you're making Xbox
question.
sound like Six Flags, and PlayStation sound like Disney World, dude. That's not fair.
And I say that, well, I would have to word it a different way, but that's like me thinking about it, and of course, in context.
Welcome to Six Flags. You'll have fun here too.
I'm gonna get the old man, have him dance in the front. He'll be fine. No, but I think if somebody says, there are a lot of different gamers, especially on Black Friday. If somebody's coming out saying, I want value, I don't have a lot of money to spend on this, these games for my kid or for myself or next generation, then it's definitely worth looking and picking up an Xbox system. Even if it's an Xbox Series S or Xbox Series X, not even if I take the all access pricing away, if people are like, I want to just pay this off right now, or they use some type of layaway plan that I'm sure businesses will have, I think the fact of the matter is that I think the allure to telling these people, or tell that person, look, you can get an Xbox system, and out of the gate, you have a plethora of games and experiences that you will be drowning in games through the remainder of the year. You could make it to the spring and play, and then, before you're out of games to play, really, if you really play games every day, and then you can start looking at other new experiences that you want to pick up if you want to do that. I think that if you want something with, I say that like exclusive experiences, you're not going to find anywhere else. I mean, Game Pass is an exclusive experience, but I meant exclusive in the sense like, the exclusives at PlayStation. If you're a big, man, if somebody says I'm a really big Marvel fan, Spider-Man, it's on PlayStation 5. You want to go with the PlayStation 5. It's going to cost you a little bit more. Actually, no, it's not. It's going to be the same price, but you're going to have access to a lot of games that you're not going to be able to play anywhere else. But like you said, Seth, that is going to come at a small premium. It's just like your Apple product. Like if you want to play Miles Morales, you're going to pay that little bit extra to get that, as opposed to the value options that you're going to get with Xbox Game Pass and the Xbox ecosystem. And I think it's those big things right there. I really think that when I really thinking about it, I believe Xbox Series X is going to be a big win and a big get for a lot of. The best way I can put it would be lower income families and people with lower income situations, or just young people, like children, that the parents want to get them the next gen console, but they're not going to shell out $500 for an Xbox or a PlayStation. Guess what? That $399 for the PS5 digital version looks really great, but $299, beautiful. Save $200 off the top end, and I can get access to all these games that little Johnny can play right out of the gate. Wham bam, thank you, man. That's a great present that anybody would love to have there. And I don't. PlayStation 5 is great. It's super awesome. I'm super excited. Like, I think hype wise, just because of how gaming culture is right now, and Microsoft is trying to do a paradigm shift. I think a lot of people are looking at that right now. I'm not going to be surprised if we get to the end of the holidays and they say PlayStation 5 is the best selling console. For the end of the year and moving forward, that's fine. But like we talked about here, that's not really a huge concern for Microsoft. They want to get more people. They want to access the market that's not there yet. And I think that people should not discount the credit of the Xbox Series S. No, it is not 4K at 120 frames. It's 1440p at 120 frames. But as a secondary console, could be an excellent get. You'd have to, we said that we've talked a lot about people could be short on money because of COVID and whatnot. But also, people brought it up in chat as well. There are people out there that, just like Marutu in chat said, they haven't spent money on movies and gas because they haven't been traveling and other stuff like that. So they have extra cash to burn going into this holiday season. And looking to get these higher end experiences can definitely be within their wheelhouse, whether they want to pay for the PS5 or for the Xbox Series X. That is totally within their wheelhouse to do. But like that being said, don't discredit the Xbox Series S out. I think that is a great value get, and some people just very, very bluntly, they go in and they look at the consoles and whatever the lowest price is, that's what they're going to get. Boom. But I think that because Microsoft's messaging has been done so well, the fact that they're going to get out with these average consumers, show them these boxes, they're going to look at the prices, then they're going to be told, oh, guess what? This has a service called Xbox Game Pass. There's over 100 games that you can download right there. Anytime Microsoft releases a brand new game, it's going to come on this service as long as you pay the monthly subscription. Yep. People are going to get behind that. People are going to get used to that. And then, of course, people are going to get behind PlayStation. I think that even within these two, like gaming, I cannot tell you how many times my mom, growing up in my life, would call the gaming system either the Nintendo or the PlayStation. It was one of those two. And so PlayStation has a very huge name. It's a very big brand. And so having that, people are going to walk in the store and say, oh, the next PlayStation, it's a little bit more, but it's PlayStation. Yeah, let me go ahead and get that. Oh, Spider-Man's on the box? Give it to me. And that's why I've talked before on the show, like having Spider-Man as a launch title is huge. Because people love Spider-Man, period. And so I think that that's why I asked that question. Like, what are you putting more stock in the holiday? Do you want something with great value where you're going to feel like you got a very great value for the same price, or do you want something where you're going to find these games and experiences that you're not going to find anywhere else, and then make your decision off that?
That's it.
So,
I'm console ward out, man.
I'm tapped out. I'm reading the comments here. Is there anything that the Xbox new game?
While you're reading through those, I do want to ask folks, if y'all are big fans of Rocket Punch, I do would like to kindly ask that you consider jumping over to my Twitch channel as well. I have been doing some. I just got back from vacation, and while I was on vacation, I was trying to think about kind of what kinds of streams I want to do and stuff moving forward. And it'd be super helpful for those of you who like listening to me talk about stuff. I also like to do streams as well. So I'm going to... Cameron, do you mind if I hashtag blatant self-promote?
You know I don't care. Go knock yourself out, man.
I'm putting mine in chat there, twitch.tv/Darth Turner. I would really appreciate if you jump over there, give me a follow.
Follow him.
Yeah.
He does awesome stuff.
Yeah,
a lot of the graphical stuff you see, it's from this guy right here.
Yeah, now this graphic stuff is from you. You were the mastermind.
You did Console Wars. I didn't do that logo.
Well, yeah, you're right. The Console Wars logo. Yeah, you're right. So I've got some really fun new types of streams. I teased this a little bit before we went on vacation, but I couldn't quite get it up in time to do one, and I figured let me just get back from vacation and do it. But let's just say that if you like. I do game content, but I'm also exploring other types of fun. Not quite games, but something kind of close. So that'll be pretty fun. But I would really appreciate it. Oh, thank you so much, Jumpman, for jumping over and following. You see what I did there? Jumping over and follow.
There you go.
So yeah, that will really help me out a lot. And if you want to follow me on Twitter for hot takes, JoJo memes, I actually had a hot JoJo take today. It wasn't so much like a hot JoJo take as it was like a hot JoJo memory when I was thinking about actually the actual tweet. I'll just pull it up and read it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are not a fan of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, sorry, I'm about to start speaking a foreign language. But the tweet was, God, I tweeted a lot today. There we go. I sometimes think about how the entirety of the JoJo's fandom thought that Part 5's anime ending would be Gangster's Paradise. And then we all found out it was freaking you. Good shit. With a link to the ending of Part 5. Because, without spoiling anything, the Part 5 of JoJo's is all about one of the JoJo descendants becoming basically a crime lord. and he's trying to become the head of the mafia. And so obviously Gangster's and each of the anime are known for ending with some kind of like pop song that's relevant of the time that kind of takes place in.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one being in the 90s, everyone was like Gangster's Paradise. Everyone thought it was going to be it, but then nope, it was Freaking You. And that's just a song about freaking. So yeah, if you want more hot takes like that, dank memes, and notifications when I do go live on Twitch, at Darth Turner, you can see my handle right down there on Twitter. Twitter is where you'll find me mostly. So,
okay, good deal, man. Make sure you're following them, guys. It's fun stuff there. And also, of course, guys, make sure if you enjoyed the show, if you're watching via Twitch, make sure you hit the heart right here on twitch.tv/RocketPunchLive, where we keep you updated with game streams and podcasts each week. There, you don't want to miss as well. This is the end of the week, so the next stream will be the Rocket Punch show, where we'll talk a lot more detail about the Sony showcase and a lot of other stuff that happened this past week. But guys, other than that, thank you so much. This has been episode 7 of Console Wars. We know now, and now it's just the waiting game. We've got it's September 17th, so we've got about 2 months. A little less than 2 months before we'll finally be able to take these things home, put them in our houses, and play them. And we'll be there and let you guys know our experiences as well.
That doesn't feel real. I don't think that there's a point where we're supposed to be able to have these products. They're always supposed to be theoretical things that we're
going to get to like late October, and they're going to say due to the COVID-19. It's been delayed to 2020.
No. What would be even better is you get to the end and like everyone opens them up and there's no power cords in any of them, and then everyone just like screams at the sky and like, there was time now. There was time.
Like, just use the power cord from your previous system.
You're right. I was making a Twilight Zone reference, but
I was thinking. I thought you were making an Apple reference.
Well, because remember, it's like there was time now. That episode.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, he like breaks his glasses. I was like, well, what's the one thing that you could omit from the box that would?
Yeah.
Be the power
Good
cable.
point. Good point.
Sorry, a bad joke is the one you have to explain. So it means it's too late. I need to go to bed.
It is too late, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. Remember, RocketPunchGo.com is the place you want to go to catch out all of the stuff there. But until then, guys, until the next episode, thank you so much. Good night and good game.